Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 366. Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Jim. I am so evil. So says the sensei of the Whatnot Segulent and the Duke of You Know.
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, Jim, we're going to be, we kind of green-lighted and sped up, getting right to Forever Evil #2, because we were both super excited about that. But then we jump right to a casual discussion about many of the remaining issues of Villains Month that we didn't have a chance to get to. We don't get to all of them, but we got to quite a few in just casual discussion. So it's kind of our Villains Month wrap, jumping on to further events that are going on in Forever Evil #2, the event that looks to be changing the face of the New 52. And I'm excited for that. We are proud members of the Comics Podcast Network and the League of Comic Book Podcasts. Sponsoring us this episode is DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. Over at DCBService.com, this is the time of the month where we're getting ready to do the changeover for next month's books. I know you're like me, Jim, that you want to see what they're going to be doing for deals in October. And I'm super excited to see what's happening with DCBService.com. Remember, they're a digital partner. They do Comixology, iVerse Media, and even My Digital Comics. And every one of those digital purchases earns 5% towards your DCB Service order. So when you're getting deals of like 50% off or more on DCBService.com for all these crazy bundles that they're doing, it's a great opportunity to save a few extra bucks and get yourself that trade or hardcover or take some money off of your shipping or whatever just from buying the digital comics that you normally do. So it's a cool deal. Over at InStockTrades.com, this is one of the coolest sites in the world. Jim, you were mentioning how you kind of do this on this episode, this kind of hybrid of now you have single issues, and if you drop a book, you get reinterested in it, you'll start grabbing trades and things. The place to go for things like this is InStockTrades.com. They have a deal of the week, which we have been raving on this show, Earth 2. They have the second Earth 2 hardcover. It's Volume 2, The Tower of Fate, collects issues 7 through 12. That's 50% off, only $12.49 for a hardcover.
Wow.
A new hardcover of a great series. So if you haven't been reading that, they've also got JLA Earth 2, the deluxe edition hardcover, which has The Crime Syndicate by Grant Morrison.
Ooh.
So it's a good time if you haven't read stuff like that to jump over at InStockTrades.com, where orders of $50 or more give you free shipping. James, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on the show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Gesundheit. Let's talk some comics.
To the Batmobile. Let's go. Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed. Here, ready to move up.
Jim, our first discussion this episode is going to be kind of funny because originally we were planning on doing a whole episode around just the Villains Month books. We were going to do kind of a wrap-up, and we're still going to do that as a part of this episode. But I think one of the testaments to Villains Month for me and the first issue of Forever Evil is I found that every week I was getting more and more excited to read more books and to further the direction on where they're going in. And actually, when we do talk later about the Villains Month's books, there's one in particular that leads directly into Forever Evil that I want to discuss. That was another one of my favorite pieces. But there were so many good ones of that just got me more excited to see, okay, this is once again clarifying who the villains are in the DC Universe. Some of the tie-ins clearly are leading into Forever Evil or the Forever Evil tie-ins that are coming down the road. And I found that event just got me more excited to read this particular issue that we're going to be talking about in this episode, Forever Evil #2. What about you? Where were you at? Like, I know we talked about this last night in passing. Are we going to read this because it just came out or not?
Oh, God, dude, man. I really dig this. This was, and it's funny because I kind of wanted the Forever Evil concept to continue and even go with a limited number of titles until Forever Evil completely wraps up. and maybe like next month only have a couple titles, and then a month after that a couple more, and just let it build off of like as it would make sense in the overarching Forever Evil story to add more titles to the mix. And
so you mean like basically that would be a temporary stoppage of the universe as we know it to only show us the view of this event?
Exactly. Like with this book, at the end of Forever Evil 2, we see Batman. Mm-hmm. So a couple of the Bat titles could continue on. We saw the Teen Titans in this issue. So the Teen Titans issues can continue on because that story arc's going on. But we still haven't seen Flash. We still don't know what's going on with Wonder Woman. So until these characters start populating, I would kind of hold off of their title. Or if they're not going to hold off the title, you'd keep running the villain side of it. Keep going, with that kind of story arc and, just how that, picture flows out. I think that would have been a neat way to handle this.
What I like about what you're saying is, financially, they can't do that.
Exactly. I completely understand.
But where I'm digging everything you're saying, what would be cool about that as a reader is we'd be following along real time. So our heroes would be reintroduced to us in their current status quo, whatever it is.
Exactly.
So how cool would the mystery be of what happened to this guy, what happened to that guy, without having current issues continuing with them? I think, and you could still be publishing the DC titles that aren't going to be affected. Well, I guess I would kind of go the way you're going.
Yeah.
I don't know how. You know what though? I think that would make it hard for some of the titles that clearly are not involved in this. They would have to all have wrapped up,
right,
before Evil Month.
Yeah, and I'm assuming. Because I haven't looked at any of the, I know Batwing just came out this month, this week, and I haven't had a chance to look at it. I'm assuming there's going to be an editor note in the title that says, this takes place before, Forever Evil, or, there'll be some type of notation as to where this is taking place in the timeline. But I think that would have been a neat way to handle this whole event, as it's going through. Because I'm really digging this. I'm loving how the story. I loved some of the individual villain stories. A couple were surprises for me. A couple were, oh yeah, woohoo! I'm doing my happy dance, and as I'm reading it, just because there's some really neat stuff, and there was some great build-ups for the next month. A couple of these titles have direct rolled right into Forever Evil, right into the continuation. Some of them were backstories, and it was a great blend and usage of for the creators to actually just sit back and say, this is what I'm going to do with it.
So you really didn't read any of the other issues this week yet?
No, I have not read any other issue.
You haven't actually seen. They actually did put a main page on the front of it.
Okay, cool.
And it's real simple. It says, this book is ignoring Forever Evil, so jump on the internet and get snarky.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't. I'm with you. I didn't read them either.
Oh, okay. My comics literally just came
right.
Within an hour of us recording this. So I have Forever Evil in front of me because I electronically downloaded it through through the DCBS and all that. So it was kind of nice to have that handy. But I'm like, I knew I was getting the book, so I'm like, I'll just wait for the others.
Do you care? Like, for example, it came out this week that I haven't had a chance to read yet, but it's going to be my first read tonight. The Movement. I'm obviously I'm a big Gail Simone fan. I love Freddie's artwork, so I'm excited to read the next issue of that. When there's a title like that takes place in the DC universe, but it is not currently affected by this event. Does that bother you? Because to me, it doesn't. I know I liked your idea a lot, so I'm not invalidating what you said before. I thought your concept was cool. I get the financial piece. So when you're a company and you're saying to yourself, there's certain books that really aren't currently affected by this, they can continue going on. We're going to jump back to those stories continuing, and there's going to be a point in all of these books where they will make the jump to Forever Evil. Does that bother you when that happens? Like where this title takes place before this type of event?
No, that's not I don't have an issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know, for example, Superman is going to have a little where it's finishing up the story it was currently working with, when Brainiac had the Metropolis in a bottle and people were changed, and Clark's going to be dealing with that stuff. And I know that's going to have nothing tied in with Forever Evil, so that story is going to continue on, and he's a major player in Forever Evil. I understand that they're wrapping those stories up, and especially a title like The Movement that had no connection, they're going to keep going through, and Batwing are going to go through. I'm cool with how they do it, and I understand why they're doing it. It's one of those things where I'm like, if I could pick my absolute perfect thing, it would be boom, like this. It would have all this connected, all this tied in together. And in reality, you can't make that happen, especially with 52 titles. You can't really pull it through. Now, I'm assuming the creators are going to try to do some type of connection, some type of tie-in, as I said, editor notes or whatnot. But you got to have an understanding that one, they have to keep putting out the product. They have to keep, this is a business, and this is a business that has to continue, thrive, and grow, financially. So it's, this is going to be, you got to have some understanding and some leniency and some acceptance. And
I'll also argue, building off what you're saying, I would not want a story compressed to meet the event, if you follow me.
Exactly.
Like, I didn't mind that, like, for a month we took the month off of most of our titles for the purpose of giving us that villains event. That's cool. I enjoyed that. It was really neat to be wrapped up and involved in that. But I'm really excited this month to be jumping back into some of my favorite storylines that have been ongoing, or ones that have been teased that are, going to be continuing on in our books this month, because I'm into those stories. Again, that being said, when you were throwing out your idea of what you'd like to have seen, in a perfect world where, financial considerations wouldn't have been a matter, that would have been a cool way to handle this.
Yeah.
I mean, if it would have, and in that perfect world, it would have worked out in a way where all creators would have known so far in advance they could have put a stopping point for their book temporarily, so that their book could be reintroduced back into the universe post Forever Evil or whatever. That would have been an ideal, so that way they wouldn't be compromising the direction of their book. I don't know. It was, it's kind of an interesting. I was digging everything you were saying.
Yeah.
But I get the financial side of it. Hey, I didn't shout out the creative team. Jeff Johns is the writer. David Finch is the penciler. Richard Friend on inks. Sonia Oback, colorists. Carlos M. Mangual, letterer. David Finch, Richard Friend, and Sonia Oback on the cover. Ethan Van Sciver and Hi-Fi on the variant covers. Kate Stewart, assistant editor. Brian Cunningham, senior editor. And this is issue 2, Rats, which is very appropriately titled considering the way this story kicks off, with the whole rat metaphor being used by Lex Luthor, saying, these superpowered beings view us, these little people, as rats scurrying around. But there's one rat that they're leaving out, and this rat can cause a whole heap of trouble for them. It's funny how I'm loving this reworking of Lex Luthor. And when I say reworking, I use that loosely because there's certain definitive qualities of Lex Luthor that I think the right writers have nailed throughout the years. They're all here. But we've certainly got some very, very cold moments with this Lex Luthor in some of the storytelling, especially in the, his Villains Month issue and stuff like that. So to see him brought back in this point in time as the Lex that we know him to be, with all of the good, bad, and indifferent in the middle of all that, it really makes for an exciting perspective for me. I like events that spotlight and have a character taking the lead as sort of, I use the term hero loosely, but Lex right now is like Earth's in trouble. And I gotta be honest with you, if Earth was in trouble, this is a guy I would be very afraid of what he could do to me at any point in time, because he would consider me expendable. But I'd also have a great deal of confidence that he genuinely wants to take down the bad guys. So it's an interesting balance with this guy, and it makes the story, I feel, very unique to be following him, in the sense that I've got no doubt. I don't look at Lex and go, wow, there goes our hero. I'm not looking at that. No, he's just not that guy. But I like that. I like the twist of following this kind of guy in this story. This issue for me, it was a home run, especially in the Lex parts in the very beginning. It hooked me in immediately.
Oh God, yeah, and I did cheer, just throughout all this, especially the intro. You're talking about just the rats discussion, and then when he runs into Otis, I cheer. I was like, yeah, Otis. Now, in the past, I've had issues with Otis, and I've had questions: why would Lex have this guy around him, and this, and I gotta say, this was the absolute most perfect usage of Otis. Because I didn't see it coming. I didn't see the swerve. I was like, oh, okay, never going to notice. That's kind of neat because, Jeff Johns has that, affinity and that affection towards the Superman movies. And, we've seen him use the character before in other stories he's told. So, like, yeah, that's kind of neat that he brings in Otis. And when I'm reading Otis part, I've got the voice in my head, oh, Mr. Luthor, is that you? And I'm like, oh, okay, and it was, oh, man, it was awesome.
I would argue that you did see it coming because you were asking the question before about Otis's role. And apparently Lex asked the same question. So I don't know that you didn't see it coming. You might be selling yourself a bit short. I really liked when we got to the bit with the crime syndicate. Being able to see the internal dynamics of this team. I love when the Justice League is around the table because you see the personality quirks. These are the superpowered superheroes, but we all know that they have a very different operating standard and, tolerance for certain kinds of behavior. When you put them all together with the varying degrees that they've got, some people are silly, some people are serious, some people are strategists, other people are tried and true heroes. All of these elements, some are warriors, some are your golden boys. It's all those different elements that are in there. You see the same diversity in this group, but they're evil. I love the bit with the Johnny Quick and this version, Atomica, and Ultraman's, I keep wanting to call him Superman, Ultraman's reaction to their kind of need to be together because they haven't been for a long time and they don't have the benefit of that. It's very interesting, but how he was looking down on them. Our Superman would be doing it in an endearing way, saying, these two are finally reconnecting. How beautiful is that they're having that moment? And he would find some way to connect with that, and that would bring him closer to Wonder Woman. In this case, because he would see that and go, wow, that's really cool. We're so lucky that we've been together. Let's go out to dinner or something like that, This guy's like looking down on them like this is something they need to get out of their system so they can get back to business. And it's a very different mentality. Even though our Superman would say they'll eventually get back into gear and stuff like that, it wouldn't be with that tone and with that kind of dismissive attitude. It would be more... And I love when a story makes me look at this guy, but then look at his heroic counterpart, and it tells me something about both of them in one moment. That I thought was fantastic.
Oh, God, yeah. And I like this... each as the team's starting to show up, as we're starting to flesh out who are the crime syndicate, we're seeing more of the personalities and just the Power Ring and Deathstorm. That little bit where you're like, okay, Power Ring should not be wearing green, he should be wearing red because he is not long for this world. And Deathstorm knows this, so they're just using this poor guy for the power of the Power Ring. And I just loved seeing that little moment between the two of them that, the cowardly, Power Ring is like, can we get this off, please? And he's like, just one more week. Just one more week. Like, no, poor fella, he's not going to be around for a week.
Now, it's funny. It says power level 78%.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Does he die when it hits 100%? Like, have we seen power levels anywhere else with that ring in this? And I might be wrong on this. I'm just throwing that out as a genuine question. Does the power levels, is that doing something? Is there a recharge to that, or is it feeding off of him?
I took it that it's feeding off of him, is how I read it. Because I was thinking, think opposite. So as with the Green Lantern, as the ring power goes down, it's worse for him. But you want fully charged. Well, with this power ring, once that ring reaches 100%, I'm assuming that it's going to completely drain from the guy who's wearing it.
Is it sucking out his willpower?
Yeah, that's how I'm reading it. And that's why he's afraid. That's why he's cowardly. And that it's more because I don't remember seeing anywhere another list of what the charge level is. So this is just kind of I'm looking at this and I'm thinking opposite. And that's why I'm saying that. And that's why I was thinking he's going to die. And I was expecting later in the issue to see a higher percentage, for the recharge rate. I'm assuming next issue we'll get another recharge rate and we'll see that it's a little higher.
When we see the bit with Cyborg's suit and how sentient it's becoming.
Yeah.
How, it's really referring to, this feeling of satisfaction that it's looking for and that type of thing. Who is underneath that hood? I am so unclear right now.
Yeah, see, on one hand, I was thinking, because we talked about this before, that it was Luthor, that it was their version of Luthor. But Owlman wants him dead, but Clark doesn't. But, Ultraman doesn't. So if it was Ultraman's villain, he would probably want him killed off. That's why I'm kind of thinking this may be Ray Palmer.
To tear our team apart again. To throw at that thing that came to our Earth, the thing we barely escaped from. It's coming. What is the thing that's coming? Is this Darkseid? Is it something else?
Well, I'm assuming the thing that tore their Earth apart was Darkseid. Mm-hmm. And I got that from the Villains Month with the Secret Society because they talked about the red sky. At the end of the issue, they talk about the red sky, and I'm assuming that's all Darkseid coming in, and that's why they had to get out of Dodge.
Okay, you saw it the same way.
Yeah. So that's, again, I was thinking just trans-dimensional traveler. And Ray Palmer's always the one that pops in my head. Booster Gold's another one that pops in my head when I think trans-dimensional traveler, but I don't think it's Booster. Again, this is just a guess. The odds-on bet is Lex Luthor, their Earth version of Lex Luthor. But just for some reason, I still have Ray Palmer just sticking in my head that it's not him, it's somebody else.
The Villains Month issue that I was referring to with Owlman, where we got to see what his journey was like on his world, his hopes for our Dick Grayson to join their group. Yeah. And we see here how protective he is. That, to me, is where an issue works, when something that leads back into something like this has somehow enhanced a scene for me. This scene meant so much more to me when he's saying, then Grayson stays alive too. What, right. That pathetic being is a facsimile, Thomas. That's the deal. He's nothing. And Superwoman disagreeing with him and like how that all played out. It's an interesting power struggle.
Well, and it's the fact of not only Superwoman don't disagree with me, it's never disagree with me in front of him again. So it's whereas on our Earth, the Trinity has that strong bond. Here, they're playing against each other, and we do later see exactly the relationship between Owlman and Superwoman is a little bit more than what Ultraman probably wants it to be. So I like just that little notation there. Again, it's where our Clark wouldn't have this type of issue. Our Clark would have actually listened to everyone and gone through the game plan. This Ultraman knows he needs to have supreme control. Because if he looks weak in front of Owlman, Owlman will make a move against him. Mm-hmm. And so he needs to keep Superwoman, on his side, but she's already slipping over. And they're getting to a point where we're going to see a coup between those two against Ultraman.
Ultraman's a reluctant dictator.
Yes, he's a very reluctant. No, actually, I would say he's less of a reluctant dictator.
No, he's the
opposite of Superman. So he's not reluctant. He's well held.
But Superman's not a dictator. Superman's not a dictator.
But he's a reluctant leader, though.
Right. Ultraman's not a leader. The opposite of a leader would be a dictator.
Right. But he's not reluctant because he's opposite.
But you just got done saying he was reluctant, that he was only being a dictator because of the fact that he's keeping his team in line because he knows that they're going to stab him in the back if he isn't. That's not the sign of wanting to do it because he's really emotionally devoted to being a dictator. He's just doing it to keep them in line so he doesn't get stabbed. Therefore, he's reluctant. And this is the reverse of that conversation.
I know, I didn't realize that.
And I did that on purpose.
Well, the funny thing is, you did that on purpose. I just jumped right into it, arguing it. I was like, no, here's the thing.
When I was reading it, I'm like, I can't wait to have fun with this. So I plan to start up the reluctant dictator discussion. And you literally throughout this comment, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like he's giving me a hook. It's with a worm on it.
Exactly how I planned it. Yeah.
I love the stuff. Do you think the Dick Grayson, his like protectiveness of Dick Grayson is because of the child? Like, is this in some way changing Owlman to a certain extent? I'm not saying that all of a sudden he's, frolicking in the woods and he's Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky. Hey, guy, I'm going to protect you now. He's not like that. But is it softening him to a certain extent where even though he's still this evil guy, like what we've seen in books like Secret Six and stuff like that, where we can see there is another side to these characters. We're seeing a passion that he has. Clearly, he's got a thing for Superwoman. So this secret that they're keeping, this dangerous secret that the cracks in this group are already starting to show. We see cracks like that in the Justice League, too, so it's very interesting to see this stuff, and I love it. I'm very into this kind of thing.
Well, you think about with the Superman-Wonder Woman relationship, how there's little cracks between Clark and Bruce over it. Because Bruce had his whole, plan laid out where he had a contingency plan for everybody, but his contingency plan for Wonder Woman is Superman. So for him, those two together are a little bit of cracks. Well, in this world, the cracks are, Ultraman doesn't want those two together because that's going to cut down on his base of power, but those two are getting together. And, with the child and just everything we're seeing between them, you think about just Ultraman where he's not the good guy, he's not the hero, but he is still about order. He was still about control of Gotham. He still was about a new world order, just the elimination of chaos and all of that. So there is kind of a family man in there. And I think, with this kind of moments with the kid and with this possible new world that doesn't have, dark side minions and whatnot. I don't want to say he's kinder, gentler Owlman, but there is going to be somewhat of a compassion. There is going to be somewhat of a protective nature of his family, of his child, and of Superwoman. So it's kind of a neat... It's that Lex Luthor vibe where Luthor's evil. He will kill people, just because, he needs to or because he wants to. But there is still a higher plan. There is still that protection of mankind. There is still that, driving the evil aliens out mindset that he has. Well, Owlman has that same type of purpose, that same type of drive, that same type of protection.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. A character I really wanted to see, and I don't know why I didn't see this coming after the Bizarro issue. It was great to see how this whole Bizarro thing played out and how the problem that Luthor's facing in this case is, due to the events and his need to have a Superman backing him up, means that he's releasing this creature way too early. I like this origin for Bizarro. This is a really good one.
Oh, God, yeah. This was a really cool way to go about it, especially the explanation. This was a really neat Villains Month issue with just the introduction of Bizarro, and just that it laid the groundwork for this moment we're seeing right here, where he's releasing him, where he's bringing out, Bizarro or Subject Zero or however you want to refer to him as. So, again, this was that cool connection between the Villains Month and, Forever Evil. And, again, I did cheer for this one, and I was very happy with this version of Bizarro, where it's the initial, it's just the mindless monster, but he's able to follow orders. He's able to understand, have some comprehension. He's not the weird Bizarro who, opposite and from the square Earth and yada yada. It's not that Bizarro, which I'm not knocking. I think was fun. I used to enjoy some of those issues, but I do like this take on him. I do like the fact that it is the messed up clone that is not exactly fully cooked. He's half baked, so he's not going to be completely with it. So it was a neat look to it.
Yeah, I agree. And I like that when they designed him, there's enough of what I can, like the inside out shirt. I know I'm jumping ahead to that kind of stuff. That kind of thing, like just kind of, it's, your dun-dun-dun moments that you're talking about. You have those with villains, too. That was a dun-dun-dun moment for me. I was like, man, that is neat. That is so cool. I read this issue on my iPad because of the fact that I wanted to make sure I read the digital for this conversation, and I used the screenshot tool. I've got that as my background right now, just because I loved seeing that Bizarro moment with the shirt, reversed and all that kind of thing. I don't know. I get geeky for things that make me nostalgic in a new way. Yeah. I don't have a problem with revamps. I never have. I guess, things like John Byrne's Man of Steel, and Batman Year One, and, so many stories throughout my life have, and I'm referencing the two big characters, but those are stories, Longbow Hunters for Green Arrow. These were stories that, whether they were full origin reboots or just kind of a reimagining of the character for a current time without rebooting their continuity, there's certain definitive stories that help you kind of see a character in a modern way without losing those core things. I love that about this Bizarro sequence. I don't know, it's just a great story.
I got the one section, Creature, can you understand me? I am Lex Luthor. I am your creator and your programmer, and you will listen to every word and carry out every command I utter. So let's test this out, Creature. Kill him. What? I shouldn't laugh at the death of some poor fella, but that is just, I gotta say, it still cracks me up. And just the, huh? Wait, what? And the best part, though, of this, the Creature didn't react until Otis turned the gun on Luthor. Once he was about to attack his creator, that's when the Creature jumped in. That's when he snapped his neck. That's when he moved. And I thought that was a cool distinction, again, of Bizarro. He's not completely evil. He's not a monster. This was his creator. His creator was in danger. That's when he moved. That's when he acted. And I think we're going to get moments like that where Lex wants him to mindlessly kill somebody, and he's not going to. And it's it's that whole Frankenstein monster type of approach with Bizarro, where is he really just misunderstood? Does he not understand the world around him? Those are some cool Bizarro stories that I've read that I think we're going to still get that style with this character, and we're still going to see some of that. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to the growth and development of Bizarro. I want to see what happens to him as this plays out.
Oh, I agree. And see, those are characters, like, I think one of the cool things is with this last month, it showed me, like, okay, we're in this stage of the development of the New 52 where we're kind of expanding out the universe in a way that it desperately needs to be at this point. Not that I've been enjoying the New 52. It's, everything I've said about the show about it's absolutely 100% true. But you know how it is. When you're in the middle of reading a universe, there comes points in times where events do something to add something to the mythos, change the status quo, shake things up, get you excited for another year of reading. What you're saying is exactly what I'm digging about this event. It's not just what's happening now that's getting me excited. What's getting me excited is when you read these stories that you're like, ooh, I want to read this issue. Ooh, I want to see what happens here. Ooh, I want to know what's going on over there. Ooh, I want to see how this character interacts with this guy. I want to see what happens there. Those are things that get me motivated and excited at a time where you're kind of like, I've been enjoying the status quo, but the status quo follows a certain pace. An event comes in and shakes everything up and just makes you go, oh, wow, let's move. This came at a good time for me as a reader. I don't know if you were in the same place. I needed this shakeup. And that's not a bad thing. That's not a negative commentary on anything that was going on before. I was digging my reading. But sometimes this kind of stuff happens and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to see this book now. I can't wait to see. It's just kind of reinvigorated me. And that's where an event works. When you get event-itis, I think, is where you hit that again and you're kind of like, but you haven't given me the chance to really kind of delve into where the status quo went from the last event.
Yeah.
I think that's where event-itis comes from. Not from there being too many events. It's from there being misplaced events that aren't story-driven, that don't have an impact that can pay off. I want to see a payoff. This will give us a payoff. And the payoff will be the way the universe changes because of what this event's done to the world. This is a major change to the world. Because the world, as you know it, has had on every TV screen, every tablet, every device, the world is ours. How are they going to react to our heroes when they come back from that? I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah, and it's the rally of the heroes. What's going to happen? Where are they going to come from? You know, I like the usage of the Teen Titans in this, especially because they are the younger heroes, and they're not, you know, they've been together for, you know, we got about 24 issues with them together, but it's still, the team is still developing. And they're not 100% on the same page, and they're still getting their groove together. And I thought it was neat that it's them, especially because it's Tim in charge of the Titans, and he's like, hey, we're going to go get Nightwing. We got to get him out. And it wasn't even just, this is his older brother. This is his fellow Bat. This is, you know, he was talking about, and I love the fact that he brings up that, you know, they have his identity. They know him. It's not going to take them long to figure out who we are. If they knew him going into this, they're going to find us. They're going to go to us, and we've got to go on the offensive. And Nightwing is a great person to have on your team for the offensive. So it was neat seeing them planted, seeing them hit, but then when they went up against Johnny Quick and Atomica, it pulled them right out of the fight. Titans are now out of this. You know, they're going to be lost in time and dealing with everything, you know, that came about because of Kid Flash and pulling, you know, from the future and all that Johnny Quick did to them that way. So it was a cool way to pull them in, show them, and then bam, continue on the story without them. But they have their own adventure associated with this, their own, you know, trials and tribulations they're going to have to deal with, and that's going to play out in the Titans comic. So I really liked how they used them, where they came through, boom, 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 continue on.
I liked that he had kind of like a Babe. Did you ever see the movie Babe with the pig?
Yeah.
I love when Bizarro goes and does his thing at the end. He's like, yes, that'll do. Yeah. For some reason, I saw the farmer saying, that'll do, pig. That'll do. See Lex Luthor doing the little dance for sick Bizarro. And there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, no. This is a job for Lex Luthor. I love that image.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because it's the backwards S of Superman behind him, and you know, but they kept him in the shadows still. Yeah, you see him, and you do have the bright green and the purple armor, and you can see Bizarro behind him. But you know, had this been, you know, Clark, it would be a boom, bump, da 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 moment. But it's, you know, still in the shadows. He does have that quote unquote hero moment, but it is Lexified. It is a little more shadowy. It is a little bit darker. It is a villain saying this is a job for Lex Luthor. And I thought that distinction, that usage of the coloring, the shadows, and just how they had the layout was absolutely perfect.
I love the patchwork nature of Bizarro's costume, too.
Yeah.
You know how it looks like it's threaded around the shield and stuff like that. I get into that kind of stuff. I thought that was really cool.
Now the ending.
Oh. See, to me, this is how you do a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
At this point, I really needed to know something about our heroes. Batman shows up on the scene to try and get Cyborg some help. And I love that, like, they're having this issue. They're popping in at this time where it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Where are the rest of the heroes? Because Batman says they didn't make it. Where are they? Are they on a different Earth? Are they on a... I don't know.
Yeah, when this started popping up and I started seeing this and reading this, when I honestly thought that when the bam boom, I wasn't thinking Batman. I was thinking Superman. I was thinking Wonder Woman because they got to heal Superman.
Right.
But when it's Bruce and Selena carrying the remains of Cyborg, I thought that was a great way to use him. And immediately the scenario started flying through my head. Now, the first thing that popped in my head is whenever you run a resistance type cell, you never want to have all the pieces together. You always have your own separate unit. You have your separate unit here, your separate unit there. And part of me was thinking this is Bruce's type of diversion. He doesn't want to tell them that where the others are. He's going to tell them they didn't make it. That way, if they get captured and they're tortured and questioned and all the various things, only thing they know is, hey, Batman told us they didn't make it. We don't know where he is. And so Bruce is not going to give up that information. He knows he's tough enough to handle the torture, but the doctors won't be. They'll try to fight it. They'll try to do the right thing, but in the end, they'll give it up. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that Superman, Wonder Woman are a separate cell. Then you got probably Firestorm and maybe, Green Arrow over there. And I'm thinking there's going to be multiple cells of the heroes around the Earth. And they're going to either try to regroup, reform, pull up, other heroes, get, type resistant movement together. But Bruce had to take in Victor to get him help. This right here is the only place Vic's going to get some help. Get that unit going. Next, other parts will handle, will deal with other areas. That's my mindset of this.
Yeah. I like the tagline at the end, Birth of the Injustice League, which I guess is Lex Luthor rallying his own kind of army.
Yeah, it's probably Lex getting his version of the League together to fight off the crime syndicate. And we've already seen, throughout the Forever Evil issues, we've seen different villains are saying, no, we're not lining up with you. This is our Earth. We're in charge now. You got rid of the Justice League, but guess what? You didn't get rid of us. Like, Gotham City evenly divided amongst the Gotham Rogues right now. They're not going to give up the city without a fight. Now, they're going to get a little war in Bane, but they're not just going to lay over and roll over to the crime syndicate. Same thing with, I'm looking forward to the Kahndaq fight, seeing what happens there, because they're not going to give up their country. We've got, general, the Rogues especially, because you got the Rogues Code, with the Rogues Rebellion. They're not going to, just lay down the line and say, oh, okay, sure, we'll follow you. No, they're going to, deal with everything that's, going to happen, and they're going to play it as the Rogues are going to play it, what's best for them. So this is really looking, I'm very excited for the following months that coming through of the Forever Evil story that's going to lay out, because, again, it's not going to be cut and dry.
I agree. When we were talking about Villains Month in general, were there issues that stood... I mean, first of all, let's kind of do this as kind of a start to it. What was your overall impression of Villains Month? Because, we've read all the weeks now. We've gotten a chance to kind of bask in it and then read this issue. Did you like the event? Did it pay off for you? Was there any point in time, you got into week 4, you're kind of like, another week of this? Or were you, genuinely excited each week for them?
I absolutely loved it. And this was, I thought it was wonderful on how, and I said this earlier in the show, and I'll say it again, how they let the creative team, really have control of what kind of villain story is it going to be? Is this going to be a flashback? Is this going to be a current telling? Is this going to be a tie-in to Forever Evil? Is it going to be a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B? Each book had their own individual feel to them. Each book had their own, kind of justification and just how it flowed through and who it was. And it gave me a great understanding of whoever the subject of the book was. So I'm very comfortable with all the different villains here, and even to the point where I wish we had a couple more stories going on about them, and that was part of my wish, that we continued with the evil story until the heroes take back over, and you just continue on with the stories that are being told about them, because these issues again, it was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I'm glad for this. This is nice. Oh, okay, yeah, I understand now. And just the little background stories letting us know where they are, who they are. It's yeah, I was very, I was curious and leery maybe before this all came out, but once I started reading these things, I dove into this, and by the end, like week 4, I literally read the entire week all in one sitting. I was, the one when the box came, I'm like, oh, okay, let me read a couple, and I just and I stopped reading, going, okay, oh crud, I just read everything. I literally just kept jumping, going to the next one, the next one, the next one, and I just ate these things up by the end, and then I dawned on me, oh crud, that was week 4. Oh dang it, that was the last week of these. I'm nuts.
I loved it too. I loved it that the issues mattered. Like there was a purpose of them, if that makes sense. They weren't a throwaway. Even the ones that were true standalones, where they don't necessarily lead directly back into a book, I felt like they were putting a villain in a place where they can be utilized by the writer in question or the series in question to develop some interesting storytelling, which to me I think is always an interesting use for the villain. How are they going to shake up the status quo? I'm looking through that Secret Society issue, which was a Justice League, 23.4. And I got your Christmas present already, Jim. It's Talon in a box.
It's Talon in a box? All right. Some assembly required.
But the great thing is he's like Mr. Potato Head. You can put his arm in his ear. And I thought that was so cool how that played out.
Now, question for you.
Sure.
This universe's Joker, is that Bruce Wayne? Is that how you read it? That it was Thomas's brother who became the Joker?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because that's how I kind of read it, but they never flat out said that he's his brother. He is the closest they came was Thomas had the one line where his brother never was never able to measure up, or it was that he couldn't count on his brother, and that got me thinking, holy crud. Was the Joker Bruce? So then I started going back through and I'm trying to figure that out and just piecing it together and seeing that this Joker was intelligent. This Joker had all the character traits that Bruce has. And he was fighting, Owlman for the safety of Gotham, but in a sick and twisted way, as we saw what he did to Dick Grayson. So I kind of thought that was the case, and I wanted to see what your opinion on that was.
I can't really tell. I can see kind of your point. I guess I'm not seeing anything that would indicate it, because he does call the butler Pennyworth, but that doesn't mean anything, because it could be just commonly known that Owlman has a butler named Pennyworth.
Right.
And wow, because it says just like you couldn't control your family. Yeah. So I don't know. I just don't. I guess I don't see that you're wrong. I don't see that indicator though either.
Yeah, I'm not seeing like the solid evidence leaning toward it, but it was a feeling and a gut. It was one of those gut feelings I had, which we know how great those always go.
Well, sometimes they're spot on. So I don't know. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not seeing anything that validates it, but I don't see anything that invalidates it either. So I think right now, as far as I'm concerned, based on my reading, there's nothing that says you're wrong on that. What do you think about the Sinestro issue?
Here's the funny thing with this one. When they threw it out there, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you have to have it in there, okay, and just, but I wasn't really that excited about it because we pretty much knew the stories and we knew where it was coming from, so I felt, oh, okay, yeah, I know where he's at, I know his status quo, but this was just indicator of how a talented writer and a creative team can take a story that I already knew what was going to happen, but make me go, wow, that was really cool. So I enjoyed this, and it was knowledge I already had about Sinestro. And again, it was another story where it showed the backstory, but led into some possible future stuff that's going to come out. And it's added to our current stuff with our understanding with Lisa Drack, and just who she is and what she's about, and telling the story of Sinestro. But then at the end of the issue, we see some of Sinestro's people are still alive. The planet was destroyed, but the race isn't extinct. And this is going to play, we know this is going to play out in Green Lantern once they get through all of their issues and all the troubles they're having right now. So I really like the fact that they laid some groundwork for what will be some future stories. I really dig this one. This was one of those stories that I was like, man, this is awesome.
I liked the increased focus on what his relationship was like with his wife. I like stories where they'll, especially with the New 52, we haven't really had a New 52 telling of what Sinestro's story was. So this kind of harkens back to what happened with like the Guy Gardner Zero issue, for example, or the Kyle Rayner one, where we got kind of a clarification what their origins look like in the New 52. I thought that did this for the Sinestro story. I agree with a lot with what you're saying, where it's re-clarifying a lot of things we already knew. So, amen, you're right on that. But I thought it also took an opportunity to take a page out of like a Secret Origins thing that Jeff Johns would do, further clarify and further expand something that we haven't seen a whole lot of. I love the idea of Abin Sur's sister and seeing what that relationship was like with Sinestro more, and how that would be something where he became so obsessed with that control and order that it was destroying his relationship. Very well done.
Oh, God, yeah. And, keeping with Green Lanterns, the Black Hand issue.
Oh, yeah.
When I saw Black Hand, again, this was another one where I was thinking, okay, we kind of know what's going on with Black Hand. But, again, they, kind of swerved me a little bit. They pulled Black Hand present day. They've kind of tweaked and modified. He's not raising, the undead superheroes. It's not the, Blackest Night. It's, some really cool zombie stuff. It's a changing of his ring, a changing of who he is. And I thought that was a neat twist to who Black Hand is going forward. They made him so they can keep him around now. He can be a villain in the current DC universe when all this clears. Whereas before, there was some questions if they'd ever be able to use him again, just because his return would signify the return of the whole Blackest Night and the whole all the stuff that came along with it. Well, now we're going to be able to get some Black Hand stories, and this had one of those moments that had me laughing out loud, and I even shared it with non-comic book readers. It was about how the cops had zombie training. And the one cop's like, hey, aren't you glad I bet you're glad we went through that zombie training right now. And as they're just going, okay, headshots only, headshots. And they were calling out and just getting in line. And it was just a perfect layout. And I was like, yeah, zombie training 101. All right.
I liked that too. I thought that was really cool. I also liked the bit with Martin Jordan.
Yeah.
And we got to see that Black Hand took Martin Jordan's hand for his hand, to use it against his son. I thought that was kind of a neat psychological twist. But also, building on what you were saying about how this character can be used now, when we saw him in Blackest Night with his relationship with Necron, you got this feeling that Black Hand, because of the fact that he was that direct agent of Necron, he was a lot more powerful, almost omnipotent, which makes it hard to bring him back for regular use. Like, now there's a clarification of what his power levels are at the moment. Without that, he's still got that ability to raise the dead and stuff like that, but I feel like he's a threat. I feel like he'll lead to some interesting psychological twists, but I liked how we got to see him in situations where it was a little hard for him to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because there was overwhelming numbers. And I liked seeing a psychological way that he handled that. He took advantage of things around to be able to create a situation that he could gain control of. That, to me, was a lot more interesting use of him than just I can create countless mindless zombies wherever I want to. This felt more to me like he was a psychological villain, building, I think, and further exploring the nature of him. I thought that was a great part, and I agree with you. It puts this villain in a place where he can be used a little more frequently. And I would like to see it because I'm interested to see where this goes.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, you kind of, the one comment you had about how he had to improvise. He had to bob and weave a little bit.
Yeah.
And he's definitely not as powerful as he was, but he's still a powerful threat.
Bingo.
And I want to see him up against some green boys, just seeing how they deal with him now and what can he do, how can he fight off the green. It's going to be a neat little play on this. He's another villain that I'm looking forward to the next future issues. I'm looking forward to seeing how he plays out in Forever Evil, because he's taking over that city. That's going to be a city of the dead. You know, the cleanup for that city is going to be interesting, and going to see how they're going to come in, how are they going to clean it up, because it's not going to be just a simple sweep. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some coordinated efforts to actually deal with that.
You know what issue I really liked? Justice League of America 7.4, the Black Adam issue.
Yeah.
I thought that was really great because I love the character concept of Black Adam. And it was great to see Jeff Johns have a chance to continue to tackle this character with the help of Sterling Gates. Actually, it looks like it was a Sterling Gates script. So I've loved the writing of Sterling Gates. So that relationship between the two of them, I know they're close. There's this understanding of sensibilities that are there. I really liked when they were working together on the Superman books. So it's great to see them coming back together here. And Sterling Gates, I thought, just had a really definitive run on Supergirl. So to see him have an opportunity to work with Jeff Johns to tackle this guy, yeah. I want to read more of this. I love the resurrection of Black Adam and how it worked out in this story, but also building this sense of you can see why there would be a loyal cult that follows Black Adam and why they would want him back and what he's brought to the table as a quote-unquote savior for his people. I love when stories do this, where you get why they would follow him as a leader. I really liked the whole Kahndaq thing in, 52, when that weekly series was going on. You got to see what was going on there with Isis and Osiris and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was really great. And Sobek.
Oh, yeah.
So this being, this concept being reintroduced here was something I really liked.
Oh, big time. And I was glad to see, because I was kind of thinking, when we read Forever Evil and the end of the Trinities, I was thinking that it was more of a corruption of Billy that created the Black Adam. But here you see this is a resurrection of Black Adam. So that immediately got me thinking, okay, we're going to have, Captain Marvel, Shazam, or Billy, or whatever name he's going to go by, and Black Adam in the same universe. We're not going to get one or the other. There's going to be both of them here. So, again, this is another one where I'm looking forward to, in future Forever Evil stories, of Ultraman versus Black Adam, how that plays out. But I'm also thinking long-term in, Billy versus Black Adam. How is this going to play out? Because I always liked the Kahndaq stuff that they did with Black Adam, where he has that this is his country. Leave my country alone, and I will let you live. Invade me, and I will kill all of you. And just that mindset that I am the protector of Kahndaq. Stay out of here. And I always thought that was a neat way for a villain to be approached. Because, again, he's not a hero, but he's not a villain. He's the dark hero, or the good villain. However phrase you want to word this, he's the Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's whatever you want to call Black Adam. He's a really cool character and a really neat concept. So to have this right here laid out, telling me, okay, that same character you thought was awesome before is still awesome. And I had me cheering on this.
You know who the girl and the guy are, right? That's Isis and Osiris. Adriana and Amon. That's the new 52 versions of those characters.
I am an idiot. I did not see that until now. Holy crud. I was just thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't. Oh, man. Oh, wow, I am an idiot. Outstanding. I'm going to reread this issue again when we get done recording just to see that. Oh, man. Cool.
Because the path has changed, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to become. Obviously, I don't think Osiris is going to become that character.
Yeah, Osiris ain't coming. Yeah. Well, Osiris is, of the dead, so maybe they can bring him back.
He might still become Sobek's lunch.
Well, definitely could be, lunch or, who knows. Again, you're dealing with magic. Yeah, maybe, and especially if she does become Isis, she's got power of life. Maybe she can bring her brother back, and by bringing him back, who knows where that'll lead and go with.
You're right. Kondok's people will be free. She will be the one. Maybe I don't. Yeah. Maybe that is I would love that because I loved that concept. It would be great to see that play out in this world. It'd be great to see that play out in this story.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason if he's going to be teaming up, so to speak, with Sinestro, it would be great to see which side do you think he would take. There's no way he's going to side with. He's going to go more Ra's al Ghul, right? Like he's going to kind of take care of Kondok, not a side with them. And we kind of already see that at the end of the issue, right?
Yeah. Well, I kind of see him joining the Injustice League.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's where, and I see Sinestro doing the same thing. I don't see Sinestro falling in line with these people.
No.
Because they said that Sinestro and him are going to have kind of a bromance in this whole thing. And I kind of see them being more on Luthor's side of this. And I got to be honest with you, I want to see that. Yes. I mean, I'm excited to see that.
Sinestro, Bizarro, Black Adam and Luthor on a team together, that's got some power to it.
That's got a lot of craziness to it.
Oh, yeah. And you add the Rogues to the mix. Even though the Rogues are running their own separate rebellion, they're still working in kind of conjunction. I honestly think we're going to see our Earth's villains win. They'll be the ones who save the day, and the heroes will have to come back after the villains have already done the work. And I think that's going to be the interesting part of, if the villains save humanity, who are the people really going to trust? Because they're like, hey, you guys took off. You weren't here. They stepped up to the plate, but they're stealing from me and killing my people. So I don't know. And again, there's so many different ways this thing could go. I'm very excited to see not only the Forever Evil story play out, but the aftermath of Forever Evil. What is this universe going to look like when everything is said and done?
I just want to quickly mention that Lobo issue, Justice League 23.2, because we didn't get a really chance to talk about that one at all.
Oh, God, yeah.
Who's the real Lobo? That was the whole point of that storyline, this implication that this guy we were reading in this issue. I didn't expect to see the more traditional Lobo in this issue. But that was something that I really quite enjoyed. I like a mystery like that. And go ahead.
Well, this was another one of those issues that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get to that. And then when I read it, I'm like, holy crud, that is cool. Will the real Lobo please stand up? And I'm thinking the Lobo that we know, the Lobo that we're used to, isn't the real deal. I think this issue showed us who the real Lobo is, and we got some clone or some copy or something like that that's not actually Lobo. And who's going to win out in the fight? How is it going to play out? I personally have never been a huge Lobo fan. I've read the stories. I'm like, that's kind of neat, but I was never like, yeah, Lobo, woohoo! I'm not excited about him. I gotta admit, this got me excited for Lobo. This got me wanting to read the confrontation between the two Lobos and seeing the explanation and understanding where it's going to go through. And I'm kind of rooting for the new guy.
Wait, but here's why I'm fascinated by the new guy. This scene, people. Oh, thank you. Thank God. Thank you. It's okay. Get up. You're safe. We were abducted from our homeworld. We were to be killed, boiled down for our bones, which are elemental, which are rare. You saved us, my mate, our younglings, all of us. Oh, gods, thank you. It's okay, brother. Get up. You're a godsend, a miracle. Get back in the cage. No, Father. Oh, God.
Again, another moment I shouldn't have been laughing at, but I was laughing hysterically. And throughout all this, I was thinking, okay, this is a young version of Lobo. So I was thinking this is a flashback story of Lobo. And then, so I didn't see the swerve coming that there's two Lobos out there. That, this isn't, an early version of them. This is maybe the real deal.
I loved it. I thought it was absolutely great how that played out. I like little swerves like that. And I'm fascinated to see who actually turns out to be the real Lobo out of the two. Because I think, with it being the New 52, all bets are off.
Yeah.
Did we get a chance to talk at all about that Hell issue?
See, we talked about it ourselves, but we never talked about it on the show.
Which is rare.
We need to.
Yeah. Because that was Superman 23.3. I knew we talked about it, which has got that gorgeous cover by Gene Ha and Art Lion.
Yeah.
It's just really terrific stuff. This is a character that has fascinated me. I knew we had a discussion about this, and this is why we avoid doing this kind of thing, because we forget. We see Jor-El, the aftermath of what we saw previously, where Jor-El came across the body of Hel-El. Now Jor-El's reviving him of sorts, but we see Hel-El has so evolved that he's able to kind of move as like an ethereal, kind of like what Xavier does in X-Men, kind of in a phantom kind of mode,
an astral type projection.
Bingo. Thank you very much. On the astral plane. I think that's how they called it in the X-Men comics. So it's like you said astral, that connected with me. But I like the idea of him seeing what was going on around him. He doesn't like Zod. He's kind of trying to see what was going on. But then he finds out everything that he thought he knew about himself was a lie. None of it was true. So he snaps. Snaps to the point where he roasts Zod and kills Jor-El, which now changes history as we know it. This is my kind of story. I love time travel stories. I love when there's things that happen that are pivotal, that affect, this is what I liked about Flashpoint. I really liked how that story kicked off, where one event, in Flashpoint's case, multiple events will completely change a universe. What is this going to do? I want to see the Superman story. I want to read the whole thing and see how this plays out. This is where Scott Lobdell's been doing a terrific job with the development of characters like this to make the Superman books must-read for me. I love this Hel-El character.
Oh, God, yeah. This was one of those, you're reading through it and go, did he just fry Zod? Wait, holy crap, he just killed Jor-El. And then you start thinking, like, wait a minute, he killed Jor-El before Kal-El was even conceived. So this universe will not have a Kal-El. Where's this going to play out? And then you sit there and you read it through a couple times and you're trying to figure out, okay, maybe he didn't actually die. No, he's dead. You see a great crack, and the body and just the fried body, and just there's no surviving this. And, that, of course, gets me thinking of the issues that we've seen of, Clark on Krypton and Clark on here, and just like, okay, maybe this is how he has to come to Krypton to fix time, or where's the time fix going to happen? Is it going to be through Forever Evil? And then I started thinking maybe Forever Evil will do some triggering to there, or this is going to do, and it's it gets you just thinking off page, and what's going to happen? Where's this going to happen? How is it going to play out? And I was like, dang, this is cool. This is a great way to use this, man.
Can we talk a little bit about Zod? Which was Action Comics 23.2. We got this great Zod story, and I love the cover. I'm a Gene Ha junkie, and I think when he and Art work together, you just get some amazing stuff. Inside the book, we get a very young Zod and see what happened to his family, how he had to survive on his own until he was finally discovered by Jor-El and Zor-El. Brought back the idea that he would unleash a threat onto Krypton to awaken the people. And we see this again. I'm actually going to kind of connect this with the Doomsday issue as well, if I can. Because we see Zod doing it again in that issue with Doomsday. This idea that he would do that because he feels, because they haven't I think his childhood experience informs that thinking. He became something stronger because he had to survive under dire situations on his own, relying on himself and his own mental resources, his physical resources. He had to adapt and overcome. He sees that as being something that has made him a stronger, superior person. He wants that for his people. So he unleashes these creatures for the purpose of bettering his people, not diminishing, bettering them in his mind. what a nutty thing, because I get the concept and I see why, his childhood would make him think that. I love a villain like that, where you can go, oh, I kind of get why he thinks that way. It's misguided, but I certainly get why he thinks that way. His experience would lead him to think that way. That's neat. I like that kind of stuff.
Oh, God, yeah. This is just and it's funny, it's a classic, usage, and we've seen this in multiple variations and different stories and just everywhere where there is the noble intention. It's the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and there is that, he's not really quote unquote evil. He's just trying to better everybody. And the best way to better everybody is to give them a challenge. It's that whole only the strong will survive. So if the strong survive, guess what? Society will be better. Makes perfect sense to me, of course. Look what happened to Zod. He became the great Zod because of this adversity he had to face as a child. So let's do that to my people. And you know what? If need be, I'll be there in case, to stop the thing, because, again, I am Zod. I am perfect. I'll be able to deal with this if need be. So I love just how everything played out and how Zod, again, we're seeing this, villain who his whole purpose was for the good of his people. And in his mind, the ends justify the means, and it's okay, to break a couple eggs if you're going to make a great omelet. You have to sometimes do it.
As a child, he saw that from his dad.
Exactly.
His dad was crying over the death of the mother, but that gave them an opportunity. Yeah. And his Father's Day gift to Dad gave him another opportunity.
Oh, God, yeah. It was, just everything makes sense. And, Zod's one of those characters where, when they tell a Zod story where he was trying to conquer Krypton, I was always like, I don't know. I always like the stories where he's not trying to conquer, but he's trying to save Krypton. And he's got to save Krypton from himself. It always felt more what a military general would do. A true general who sees himself as a servant of the people will conquer them, will kill, to take that power, but he's not taking the power for his own good. He's taking it for them. Because who better to lead them than him? Because he is, the great leader. He is the perfect person. It's that same Luthor has, these great Luthor stories had this same type of mindset where who better to rule humanity than Lex Luthor, because, hey, I'm Lex Luthor. There's nobody better than me. There's no one more superior, than me. I should be the leader because I will do what's right for these people. Even if I have to suspend all their freedoms, even if I have to take a couple lives to do it, in the end, it will be for the greater good. And just that mindset of Zod was just absolutely wonderful. And I really did like, because you mentioned the Doomsday. I love the fact that Doomsday has that connection to Krypton, that he is, a part of Clark's story, that he's not just, some creature that just came out of nowhere. No, there's a reason why he's there. There's a reason why he came to Earth to kill Superman. Everything has connections, and it's all interlocked. And it's a really neat to see these pieces lay out.
You know what story I really liked was the Reverse Flash story?
Yeah.
I like that we got a clarification of what's going on with his body. We got a clarification over what motivates and drives him. It was the experiment gone wrong, and that stuff was stuck to him. And I love that for him, there's this intense pain, but this need to be like a Speed Force parasite, so to speak, to get that power together so he can finally go back in time as a child abused by his father. His sister, Iris, it's Daniel West. Yeah. His sister, Iris, also abused. He has an opportunity now to go back through time, and this kid that pushed Dad down the steps, albeit accidentally, now has an opportunity to go back and correct things so he has a happy ending. And I guess in a way to unmake himself.
Yeah.
And I love paradox stories like that as well, which in the Flash universe is really one where you get heady into this kind of stuff, and it's really where it's fun. I don't know about you. I'm really consistently enjoying the material that's coming out of the Flash universe. I like the Grodd story. I love this. I like the stuff with the Rogues. This is all just really terrific material. And the main Flash book. I'm really sad that this writing team is going to be leaving this book. I'm happy because they're not leaving DC. We're going to see them on other projects. But this book in particular has been one that I've been just really having a good time with.
Oh my God! Yeah, again, I'm going to echo a lot of what you said. Where this was, some really cool playouts, and I really, I love the rogues, and I just love how they're being handled. And that's one of the stories that I was really excited for and looking forward to in the whole Forever Evil play out, and with the Rogues Rebellion, and just because the code and you see it, you see the team dynamic within them. They're not clean, but they're not completely, they're not a clean team, but they will support each other and they will help each other and defend each other. So I always like that type of evil team that comes together. But with the Reverse Flash, I was reading and I was chuckling to myself because I was going, man, it would be kind of funny if they made the Reverse Flash Wally West. They make it Daniel West, so it's close. But every time we go to a con, people say, "Hey, where's Wally? Where's Wally?" Bam! If they would have made him the Reverse Flash, that would have had me. I literally would have laughed out loud on that one.
Yeah, I think people would have had people's heads over that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I probably would have been the only one laughing at it. I fully admit that, because Wally is very beloved as Flash, but I think that would have been a kind of a neat little moment. I would have found it a neat moment. Others would have been angry.
One of the things that I liked was the reimagining of the Penguin, because he's a character that I think from time to time gets diminished. He needs to be kind of picked up and, again, reimagined to show, like, that whole bully storyline, showing how, as a kid, he was bullied, and he had this friend who stood up for him, but because of the nature of his life and being the Penguin, he had to, in his own way, kind of become the bully.
Yeah.
He took out his friend because his friend was basically who was his kind of, in many ways, a confidant who did favors for the Penguin because of their rich history together. Penguin had to take this guy down. I liked that there was this sense, though. Penguin had to do this, but there was also a sense of remorse. But in many ways, it gave me a greater sense of his power and the fact that he will not stop at anything to achieve his goals. He would take down this person who had such a pivotal influence on him as a child in order to keep positioning himself as a major player and a major power in Gotham. Those type of things, even more so than all of the twisted deeds that we see him do, where we see him, basically go pull out the knife and on his umbrella and go against that whole group of guys himself just to kind of get that physicality going again and to keep up appearances, which I love that kind of thing. That was more important to me, the fact that he would turn on his friend, than any of that.
The thing that caught me interesting with that one, and I may have read it differently than you did, but I saw it that Penguin wasn't going to complete. He had all the blackmail and he had everything lined up, and he would have, completely destroyed his friend if he needed to. But if his friend would have just played ball, I don't think the Penguin would have pulled the trigger. But the fact that the guy kills himself, it ends everything, and okay, he just moves on. But if he hadn't killed himself, he had just played ball and been, the Penguin stooge, I think, Penguin wouldn't have killed him or wouldn't have destroyed him.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see that. And I see your point. I don't know that you read it differently than I do, because with you saying that, I see a lot of different angles from that as far as emotionally, but when you're saying that, I'm like, I don't really have any way to, I'm not going to contradict any of that, because I agree with you. Everything you're saying is right there. I agree with that. But I think what I'm saying is he took the guy down.
Yeah, oh yeah.
There's a variety of different emotions that the Penguin went throughout that process, but he would have done everything to that guy's family that he said he was going to do if he needed to continue to shut him down.
100% agree with you.
Yeah, they were not idle. I would even argue in favor of what you're saying that he kind of gave him a little bit of a pass there, if you could argue that, by not going that route, because I think he normally would. So I think he tried to take it only as far as he had to, but making sure that he took it as far as he possibly could. I loved the book of the people from his childhood that did horrible things to him and what happened to them. Mugging turns fatal, asleep at the wheel, suicide or accident, even those bullies of youth. Yeah. That kind of stuff I thought was just really just terrific material to show how twisted this guy is.
It's funny. When we first started doing the show, I really had my only real knowledge of Penguin, was limited at best. I didn't really know what kind of cool villain he was, and as we see more stories, as we start talking, and you had thrown out some of the Nightwing stories to read with when he was dealing with Penguin, and some of the Robin stories of him dealing with Penguin, and you see this crime boss, and you see just this person that everyone's gonna mock only once, because you got a free shot. Say what you want. You're not going to live to say it a second time. And I love just that style to him, that there is just this vicious nature, but it's not even just walk up and kill somebody. No, he's going to destroy your life so totally and completely right before you die. And it's that suffering, and it's just that level of you do not mess with the Penguin, because it's not just you'll pray for death in the end. You will beg for somebody to kill you. He will make your life so miserable. And I love seeing just that nasty viciousness to this character, but I also like seeing him get physical. I like seeing him cut down some people who were mocking him, who completely, and very stupidly, I might add, thought he was a nothing. Oh, he got taken down by Emperor Penguin. He's a nothing. Oh, yeah, fine. Dead. I was like, wow, that, I love intellectual Penguin, but just the vicious and the physical side of him was also awesome. This was, a great Penguin issue. And I'm going to say all of these Bat Family issues had points in time where I was cheering and just saying, yes, this is wonderful. The Killer Croc issue. Holy crud.
Yes.
That was absolutely amazing for me. That was a rebirth of a villain and a character I want to see more in this universe now. I want to see King Croc go up against Batman, go up against the Gothams. I want to see his rebellion. I want to see what happens when the sewers rise up and try to take back the city. It's, that was some great groundwork and just some great characterization of this villain that, again, I really only thought as a physical monster. I saw him as the Croc. I saw him as this powerful entity. Well, there is an intellect there. He does have some strategery. He does have some manipulation, and he has some charisma. The guy looks like a giant crocodile, and he's got people, cheering. He's got that passionate leadership, charisma style to him. I thought that was wonderful to see this guy do that stuff.
Yeah, the other one I wanted to shout out is, in particular, for a lot of personal reasons, was the Bane issue. I thought that was fantastic because it had the artwork of Graham Nolan, and the whole art team just nailed it. But it was, to me, it was a nice balance of classic Bane with new Bane, setting up this whole Arkham War. He's a character that really, you've got to go to the roots of what, and it's Peter Tomasi writing, come on,
Yeah.
And John Calitz on colors, and I apologize for any name butchery there, but the whole creative team on that issue really just nailed it, because this is Bane. The guy, first of all, with the daughter, when the dad's sitting there, I just came to watch kind of thing. But the idea that Bane would take over a prison makes perfect sense. And use that prison as a way to build his army. It fits what we've always known about Bane. He's used jailbreaks before as ways to cause chaos and, in many ways, to give him a situation where he can take control. It's not enough for him to settle for one area. Bane wants it all. And he's very ambitious that way. And he strategically plans things on a multi-layered level that just makes you go, ooh, this is a great use of the character. I don't know if it's a redefinition, it's fair, because I pretty much still think that the guy that we were seeing in pre-New 52, the guy we saw in Secret Six, for example, that's Bane. We've got this guy right here. I love him. I mean, it's just a great character. I'm glad to see him back. I want to see what's going to happen next with him.
Oh, God, yeah. Completely. I'm sitting here nodding my head going, yes, yes, yes. This was a wonderful Bane issue, and another exciting, just get me pumped, ready for, the what's coming down the line from him and his new status quo, his new status, who he is. They didn't, completely changed and twist who the character was, he's still that same guy that I knew, that same, character that I thought was really awesome. But we're getting, this take on it. We're getting this version of him, and we're getting an understanding of who he is now. And I think that for me was, when you have these iconic characters, I don't want to lose who I think they are at the heart and soul. And they definitely did not do that with Bane. This is the character I thought he was before coming out, and just who he is and what he's about. I'm comfortable with this character going forward and what they're going to do with him. This is another one of those hoorah moments of a revamping, quote unquote revamping, because they changed, but they didn't change. He's still Bane. He's still the same, really cool villain that broke the bat, and who could break the bat again, and who could be a true threat to Batman. And you need that in a Batman villain.
One of my favorite issues, I don't know if this is going to surprise you or not, that I'm going to bundle these two together, and we'll talk about them separately, but I want to talk about the Ocean Master issue first. Ocean Master and Black Manta. Yes. I thought that Aquaman world stuff was fantastic. Ocean Master, you've got this guy who... One of the things I really like is when Atlantis is such a different place. The underground world, the underwater world, where, the way people would live is completely different. They're so separate from our world, they should feel almost alien. They're not human in the traditional sense. Yet, there's certain emotional elements that we can all connect with. And I think there's something to be said as a people to be able to identify with characters who are more alien, because it kind of makes us, in the similarities we see in those characters, I think it kind of shows us how we should probably react to each other in the world. But with Ocean Master, it's really interesting because his culture is so different and his viewpoint of humans is so different. That guard who was kind to him,
yeah,
I love his show of kindness back to him after that whole situation went down. I would never let someone like you suffer.
Yeah. Well, it was very considerate of him. I thought that was very generous and very kind, that he, took him out of his misery. Forget helping him. Why would you do that?
The diner sequence leading to him, donning more of an Atlantean armor, ignoring the woman's cry for help because of her son, who was 8. And as he's leaving, you see him hesitate in that moment and that look back. Somebody please help. He goes into the water. When he comes back out, 8 is too young. Running back like that, I was hoorahing. I still feel he's firmly a villain, but I love, at least in a traditional sense, but I love that there were, in that moment, I'm like, high five the Ocean Master for going back for more. And he's not a character who I would normally say that about. I thought that was really great.
It's funny. I completely agree with you how wonderful these issues were. And especially this Ocean Master issue. But this issue kind of, I don't want to say he's not a villain, because he did kill a lot of innocent lives. But it painted him in a new light for me. I honestly think this person could, with a little bit of time and a little bit of dealings with the surface and dealings with the correct advisors and people around him, he actually could be a decent leader of Atlantis, and he could be somebody who's not, quote-unquote, a villain. You look at his situation. He was attacked. He was invaded, so what's he do? He's going to hit back. And it's that whole mindset of peace to superior firepower. Somebody smacks you, you hit him with a baseball bat. You respond with superior force, and that's what he did in his whole, attack on the surface. Was he hit with superior force? Yeah, he targeted civilians, he killed people, so that puts him in the villain category, but there is kind of an understanding of the leader, and then just him going back for that kid to protect that kid and do what is the quote-unquote hero thing to do had me thinking, man, this guy could maybe make a turnaround. Maybe we could get an honest, or at least a non-hostile ruler of Atlantis from him.
Yeah, I can see that happening with him. What about the Black Mana issue? Did you like that one as much as I did?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed what was going on with Black Mana in that, because you understand why he's driven.
Yeah.
And that's something that, for me, always makes me, anytime you can show me a character like that and make me realize there's a gray area with him as well. When the father's coffin winds up being dragged into the water and he's got to come back out and go, what is my, because he's been asking, what is my purpose? You could see why this guy would join the Suicide Squad after this.
Yeah.
And I want to see where that's going to go. Like, I wanted to see him put on that helmet. I want to see him go up against the crime syndicate. He needs to be he's obviously going to be a part of the Injustice League, right?
Oh, yeah. He's definitely a member of the Injustice League.
Yeah.
So he's part of the villain resistance movement. And it's funny because now that Aquaman is dead, he's like, now what? And I love just that moment where he's trying that reflection on what do I do now? And then when Ultraman shifts the world and blocks out the sun, it causes the tidal waves, it causes the catastrophe, and he's without his helmet on. And I love seeing him struggle and fight because he doesn't breathe one. He's not an Atlantean. He is a human. He needs that air, but he keeps fighting through, and you just see just that that perseverance in him, and then just that moment where the father's coffin, is desecrated and just the body just floats, and just that you feel for him because, yes, again, he's another villain, but he's a villain who's avenging his father. We saw in Batman avenged his parents' death. Well, Manta's avenging his father's death as well, just in a different way. And could he possibly shift back? Could he possibly be a hero? Could he, down the line, do something other than be Black Manta? I don't know. Especially if Aquaman comes back and isn't dead, Manta's gonna, okay, you're not dead. Guess what? I'm gonna kill you because I swore to my father I was gonna kill you, not fight crime and make sure nobody else suffers. He swore he was going to kill Aquaman. So he's got a blood oath that he's got to his father that he's going to have to live through, and he's going to have to fight out. And I like seeing just that perseverance and that dedication to a cause in a villain. And he's going to do what he's going to do, how he's going to do it. And again, it's another villain that makes sense to join the resistance movement.
Was I the only one that after this wanted to read a Black Manta or Ocean Master miniseries? Like,
oh, God,
either of those characters, I would follow in an instant into their own story.
And completely agree with you. I was more on the was more on the Ocean Master side of the King of Atlantis. And just him in Atlantis, and just the process, showing the process of him going from being Ocean Master, wanted multi-criminal, to the King of Atlantis, to the ruler of Atlantis, and the recognized by the world government as an international leader, saying, okay, we're not going to charge you with the murders of these innocents. As long as you stay off of the surface world, we're not going to go after you. I would like to see that sort of evolution. I think that would be a cool miniseries showing just that evolution of the character.
You know what book I'd like to see from James Tynion? An Azrael book. And let me clarify that. When I read this Ra's al Ghul storyline, his ability to kind of do that like historical piece, I'd like him to do that Azrael where there's a history to the Order. I could see him telling a compelling story with that. But taking what book I'd like to see James Tynion do out of the whole equation, I really like James Tynion's work in the Bat universe. This guy just really gets it. I mean, he's telling great stories. This Ra's al Ghul story I thought was phenomenal. It brought in all the elements of what I really love about Ra's al Ghul, framing it in history, but showing today how this villain, this whatever you want to call him, because he's a gray area too in his own unique way, but with this whole Demon's Tower and this idea of reshaping and remaking the world to make it in his vision, a better place. In his own image, the demon in the Dark Tower, basically saying, I'm not joining, you're not going to threaten me, I'm not joining you, and let them come. Everything will burn down, everything will fall, I will rebuild, I will survive when it's all torn asunder. That kind of whole thing with him, I just love it. I just really love it.
Yeah, and I love seeing him always be one step ahead of whoever's hunting him down. Because, again, with when you're dealing with a great villain of the Bat, he needs to have that intellect. He needs to have just that one-upsmanship on everybody else. That any normal, hero, any normal person, even an extraordinary person, would still fall short to him. You need somebody like Batman who can keep up with him. You need somebody of that level of awesomeness to fight Ra's al Ghul. It's, guys like you and me, we would be so destroyed, it wouldn't be funny. It'd be boring to him to take us down. And I'm talking you and me as if we jumped into this universe knowing everything we know right now, he would still take us. Just because that is how, the level that he is, above everybody else. And I think that, again, it's a cool way to show it. And I agree completely with you about just, I would love to see this this kind of story, and I would love. And when you first said Azrael, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But as the more you talked, I'm like, you know what, you're right. That would be a neat kind of Azrael through the universe, and he would be a great creator for it.
Yeah, I mean, or a Court of Owls series or something like that. Just because I just think this guy understands how to do and frame a historical piece where it feels like it matters to today.
Yeah,
because he did that Court of Owls issue as well, which I thought was really great.
Oh, God, yeah.
And that was a cool one where you're bringing back the first Talon, that whole thing. The court's basically saying, with everything that's going on right now, with what's happening in the world, we need to persevere. We need to survive. We need to do what we've always done. You hide in the shadows until it's necessary to step out into the light. When we step out into the light, we do it to change, modify, and improve the world in our image, so to speak, and with our goals in mind, always with keeping our society, our court, in the background, in the shadows. We're a legend. We're a myth. People in public should be aware of us in whispers and fairy tales, things that scare them when they go bump in the night. We're your boogeyman.
Yeah.
In the Bat universe, and more so than Batman. We're gonna get you in a place that he can't even do because he's more real than we are. That's the kind of thing I like about them. It's made a great story, and Tynion really captured that in this one. Like I'm very anxious to read the issues of Talon now involving this first Talon and what his deal all is, just because I want to see that.
Probably one of the biggest surprises for me in this was Joker's daughter.
Oh, that was cool.
Anne Nocenti, did an absolute wonderful job with this character, because when I saw it, I was like, Joker's daughter? Well, I was like, what? And I didn't know where it was going, and then just you start reading going, oh, this is beautiful. This is wonderful. And just they created this character, developed her all in one issue, and I'm backing her. And I want to see more stories. Yet by the end of this issue, I was like, okay, what's this continuing in? Where is this going to go? Are we going to see her again? How is this going to play out? Where is she going to come up again? And it was a really neat concept of who the Joker's daughter is. She's not technically the Joker's daughter, but she still has that same type of neuroses, that same type of neurotic nature, and also that same craziness, but it wasn't stupid crazy. She is, again, another, mental, she's another thinker, she's another planner, but she is crazy. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. We got a certifiable nut jobby here. So it's that chaos of craziness, but it's not just complete craziness. You got to know what you're doing. You got to go at her with a plan, and another charismatic leader, where she's got the other crazies following her for now. Who knows where it's going to go and how well she's going to keep, the command going. But right now, she's got some good steam going into as she's going up to the surface world.
I liked the whole bit with Sharon where the people started to rally behind her. Yeah. Because, well, when I say rally behind her, they rally behind her because of psychologically, physically, all that, what she did to them. There's so many scars that were left with them that come from the inside more than even what the physical thing. I think the physical thing that was done to them is because of those internal scars. I just thought that stuff was really great. I love that he was in the background having that done to him when that coat was taken from him, too. You see one of the other guys wearing the coat?
Yep. Well, that was his leadership coat. Not anymore.
Or is that a stick in the ground that's holding that leadership coat? Or maybe it's a symbol or something like that. that she'll carry along. I don't know. I'm anxious to read the Catwoman issue to see where that goes.
Yeah, and again, it was the usage of the Joker, but not as the Joker. Again, it's the Joker's not in this. We haven't seen really. We saw the one Joker issue, but it was a backstory. We don't know where he is, if at all, going to be involved in this whole story. With the Forever Evil cycle, and I really like the fact that there is that great mystery. And part of me would like to see Joker in it, but I don't need to. I don't need to have Joker in this story. He could never make an appearance, and I'd be okay with it. Now, me personally, if I was a creator on it, I would do a little shadowy image, but not have him get involved. Have him be there just to see what's going on, but go, it's not my scene, and just stay out of it.
I liked the Solomon Grundy issue, that Earth 2 15.2.
Yes.
That I thought was a terrific issue where we got to see what happened with that guy and his wife, and how that led to Solomon Grundy being formed. His wife was Penny? Was that her name?
Yeah.
Basically, she had to kind of compromise their marriage in order to kind of keep them afloat, but couldn't live with the guilt of it all. But then he came back and settled things in a way that kind of cursed himself when he committed that suicide and slid down. He cursed himself to become Solomon Grundy. And I don't know. I thought it was just an interesting story to see why the rot would so connect with him the way that it did in Earth 2.
Yeah.
And that's I'm endlessly fascinated by the Earth 2 world. Anytime you're going to give me any issue that is going to tell me something more about that place, I am immediately on board. And that was a very good handling of that.
Oh yeah, another great story, another great character, and the fact that we only have Solomon Grundy on Earth 2. We don't have him on this Earth. I was like, it's kind of cool that they're doing that they're putting him over there, they're keeping him there, and they're building his story in that universe. So it's another great usage of an alternate Earth. Makes me wonder what they're going to happen with the crime syndicate. Will they be able to send them back to their Earth? Will they send them to a different Earth? What's going to happen to them when everything is said and done? Because I don't see them staying on our planet. I don't see them staying on our Earth, but where are they going to go? What are they going to do? There's so much out there and so much things they can do with that crew, with that team, and just, I'm like, dang, this is cool. I am very excited, if you can't tell, for this series and for this event. This is right now a great event and a great timing for me, because there's so much that can happen, so many different things that they can go with, different angles and different stories they can tell within the event. We have the 7-issue Forever Evil event going on. That's awesome. But we have all these side stories. We have all these little, what about this? What about this? Boom, 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 popping up in different titles. So, yeah, I am extremely excited for this.
I love the Arcane issue of Swamp Thing. I've become a big Swamp Thing fan. In a way that I think the whole development of this New 52 version is just really reinvigorating. Maybe go back to the classic material and start reading more Swamp Thing. Like, I've been rereading the Alan Moore stuff that I read before, but now jumping on to the next volume that I haven't read before. I'm just becoming very Swamp Thing happy. And I want to read more beyond the Alan Moore stuff afterwards, because I just think the character's interesting. That whole bit with Arcane and the bunny rabbit, because of his tie with the rod, and the thing kept popping up alive again, how that was just driving him up a wall. I loved that.
Little rabbit foo-foo hopping through the cornfields.
But especially what was going on there, how we got to see a history of Anton Arcane, what was going on with Swamp Thing's love interest, and, I don't know, just Abby, Abby Arcane. Seeing that history before all of this, what led to him becoming the guy that we know, I thought was just really neat.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and another cool story that has the past and future story layout. We get the past stories, we understand where he's coming from and a little bit deeper, but then it does lay some groundwork for the future stories with a piece of him getting out of that self-imposed prison. Well, not self-imposed, the prison imposed by the Council of Trees. So Arcane isn't dead yet. He's still going to come back, and it's going to take a little bit of a little bit of time for him, but he's not out of the game. And I like the fact that that's how the issue ended with, again, another explanation of bringing back a villain, like we saw with Black Hand. We get these villains back in the mix, and once again, they're in the fight. And where's this going to go? Well, we'll find out in Swamp Thing. And that's where the story needs to be told, and the continuation of Arcane. I'm like, yes, this is cool.
His infecting of Ilse was like, boy, she's strong, so strong. Let's see how strong she can become. I was like, woo, what a twisted story that is. You don't want to survive. I guess you don't want to survive the rot if your mate is really in tune with it. I like the creep factor of the supernatural world. And if those characters, the villains, the stories, they need to be told a little differently than your traditional superhero story, because you want to deliver that kind of feeling like there's magic and mystical and unexplained. It's got to feel like Ripley's Believe It or Not, The Outer Limits, and Twilight Zone all rolled into one, with a little bit of horror movie in there for good measure. It's all those kind of things, the genres that don't always fit in superhero books. I think it's great that they're fitting into Swamp Thing, because that, to me, that I'll steal your palate cleanser thing, those are the ones where, when I read a Swamp Thing, I'm like, oh, this is so nice, because it's just something a little pleasant and a little different. Not pleasant, but I mean, it's pleasant in the fact that we get to read it and enjoy it, and it's something so much different than what we're currently reading in the regular superhero books, that I am glad the superhero stuff the supernatural stuff seems to be successful enough for them to keep it going.
Oh, definitely. And Arcane needs to have that creep factor, and he needs to have that freakiness, and same thing with the Swamp Thing stories. You need it needs to fit, and it's got to be in there, but you can't go completely over the top. There was a nice, beautiful balance of creepy, freaky, dark, but also just a not so much that it overtook it. You got to have that blend. If you take it too far, then you could get into cheesy, slasher movie type creep factor. No, this has got to be a subtle dance. This has got to be a build up. This has to be that moment where, when you're done with reading the book, you go, "Whoa, that's a nasty guy," and just I don't want my mind to continue on off the page. I don't want my imagination to create more of the world of Arcane, because he is that freaky. He is that nasty. And, I'm worried that I'll start having nightmares if I really start thinking about this guy and what he's capable of doing. And I think that, for me, makes an absolutely wonderful, creepy villain that I'm worried about thinking about him even more and giving him more power and more energy.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where that goes.
Oh God, yeah. And another character that I absolutely loved that I thought she was a cool character, but I never really oh wow, this is a great Cheetah.
Oh yeah.
With the Wonder Woman 23.1. Wow. That, I was like, what? This is a great backstory, a great current story, and just, this is cool. She is a great Wonder Woman villain. And I always used to kind of wonder, or just kind of like, all the Wonder Woman villains are females, and I know they're not all, but, like the main villains are her females. I'm like, you can throw some guys against her. What?
Dr. Psycho.
I know, not all of them, but the main.
The gods.
Okay, you're going to throw out a lot more than just a couple, okay? I get it. I was wrong in my statement. I will say it right now. I was wrong. But I'm thinking back when I was a younger kid before I started.
Let me wait, hold on. Let me take the joking out of it. Okay. Just because I'm just teasing you. The reality of it is, as a kid growing up, and I know where you're going with this, and I just want to show, and then I'm going to let you finish because you're making an excellent point. I really am just teasing you. Cheetah has typically been the character that you kind of, and a Giganta, are characters that you typically associate with Wonder Woman in mainstream media. As far as they tend to be the ones that were on Super Friends. Super Friends tends to be where you think of, and you think of the Wonder Woman villains as being the two females. So please go ahead.
That's where I was going with this, and I know you were joking, and those, but Yeah, especially like when I wasn't reading Wonder Woman. And one of the reasons I've admitted on the show before I never really read Wonder Woman was because when I was a kid, I was a stupid kid. I'm like, oh, I can't read a girl comic. Come on, she's a girl. I couldn't do that. And now as an adult, I'm like, there's some neat stories coming out. And Cheetah was always the one I was like, okay, yeah, she's female, so it's gonna be Wonder Woman's villain. But as we're seeing it, she is Wonder Woman's villain because she fits in Wonder Woman's world. She's got that Amazon. She's got the hunt. She's got that whole connection with gods and just everything that makes Wonder Woman so cool. She's got that in her. And I thought that was a great way to bring it in and bring everything home as to why Cheetah is Wonder Woman's villain. Why she's one of, if not the main villain that Wonder Woman has to deal with, because Wonder Woman was kind of there in the creation of her. Wonder Woman didn't create her, but she was there at the birth of the villain. And that gives the hero and the villain such a strong connection, especially because of the code of the hunt, because she is, Cheetah is that, follows that twisted, deformed Amazonian code of the hunt, of just the nature of who they think the Amazons were. And I thought that was a cool play on it, especially because when she first, before she becomes Cheetah, where she's explaining to Woman, oh, I followed the code of the Amazon, and Wonder Woman kind of laughs. Now, she didn't mean to laugh at her, because this was when she's new to this world. She's new to us. She's not used to dealing with, how we would react, or how anybody in this world, especially someone kind of touched in the head, like Barbara was, that she's gonna think, oh, okay, you're really insulting me. That's, gonna put her over the edge. And I thought that was wonderful, that it was just that social faux pas that Wonder Woman didn't know she was doing was that driving edge, that thing that drove her over the edge and really added to Cheetah's hatred of Wonder Woman. I thought this was just the connection of the villain and hero was absolutely wonderful.
Wonder Woman was on a podcast recently, and she was talking about your comic and giving similar things. As a kid, I couldn't read a comic with a male. And, I read this book, and there's this guy, Jim, and he really was inhuman, and people were laughing at him. And
let's be honest, if Wonder Woman was reading my comic, she would call me a girl. She would say, I'm tougher than he is. He's a little girly man. She probably would be, laughing at me and just the variations of who and what I was, especially as a little whatnot. As a little kid, I do admit I'm not the strapping manly man that I am today.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman stuff was really good. I like the Firstborn material. We're not going to be able to cover everything. I mean, there's a lot of books that we're just not going to get to on this episode that I wanted to talk about. But I just thought it'd be fun if we just kind of circulate through and just have a chance to just start grabbing randomly some of the titles that stood out for us. There were a lot more. I've got to be honest with you. Was there an issue that you felt was weak? Obviously there were ones that were... the way my hierarchy worked with the Villains Month issues were, there were some that immediately I grasped them and read them, and they knocked it out of the park. I was like, wow, what a great reimagining. There were books that fell a little bit lower on them, where I got that enjoyment on them. I wanted to do a reread because there was something that kind of drew me back, and it was actually in the second read-through that I found some connections and a hook that just made me really enjoy the issue. Then there was kind of the middle of the stack stuff where they were just good reads. I'm nothing bad to say about them. I just found them really enjoyable. So they fell into really three categories for me. I didn't have anything that fell lower than that. That were just kind of the middle of the stack reads were the ones that were worthy to be in the stack. I'm glad that I purchased them. I did a look through for the art again, and just kind of a quick story look through, but it wasn't full reread. That's kind of my middle of the stack book where I was glad I read it. It isn't one that I'm probably going to be rushing to read over and over again, and that's not an insult. That's just kind of the way it worked. But I really thought the amount of characters that they were able to focus on and the diversity in the comics they're developing, I would imagine that people listening to this, there's books that we didn't talk about were maybe some of their favorites. And I think that was kind of a cool thing about the event. Did you have a favorite character in all this? Or did you have one that you disliked in all of this?
Well, I did not have any that I disliked. And to be honest with you, your assessment of how middle of the stack is probably the lowest you went. I think that's very fair assessment with me. And there is even a title that I stopped getting a couple titles just because of financial and because of time and just all type of limitations. But I still picked up the Evil title for it, and that was the Dial H. And so I picked up the Dial E, even though it's Justice League, but I still picked up that book, even though I wasn't getting Dial H. And I read it, and I was like, this is a cool story. This is a neat story. I liked it. And I was like, okay, this is cool. This is a good part of that universe and a good twist on the universe with Dial E instead of Dial H for, Hero. And I thought that was a cool thing. So here's a title that I'm not really reading anymore, but I still picked up the book, and I still read it, and I still enjoyed it. So I think that, for me, shows just the strength of this, because I really and deeply enjoyed it. And as for favorites...
Wait, hold on. So, tell me more about that Dial E issue. Did that make you want to, pick up Dial H again?
Well, here I never really not wanted to pick up Dial H. The Dial H, I didn't drop it because of quality. I thought Dial H was a cool story, and I was enjoying reading it, but I was like, you know what? I had to make financial choices. I had to make choices on my time. And, I was like, you know what? I got to pick up a title, and I picked that one. And part of the reason that got dropped was because it doesn't always have a strong connection to the DC universe. I was like, you know what? I could separate myself and not pick this thing up, and I would be okay with it. So I dropped that off. And so reading this again, it was one of the things that made me go, I did enjoy Dial H, and I'm thinking I'll probably go back through and either pick up a trades just so I can read the rest of the story and read everything through finish. But it wasn't something that made me want to run out and go, oh man, I should pick it up again, because I still had that same feeling I had before, where it was a good story, but I was never passionate and fiery about it. But I enjoyed the read.
Does it make you, when a series like Dial H has been canceled, but just one has, when you read an issue like that, would that make you say to yourself, I'd kind of like to get the rest of the issues just to kind of casually in my own time? Or does that not enter into...
No, definitely. It gets me thinking about the trade. Okay. Figuring out where I left off at and where the trade is. And it's one of those situations that I'm now getting to the point where I can mix and match floppy and trades. Or also I was thinking looking digitally. That's another very viable possibility I may do at Dial H, is pick up the digital stuff and read it so I have the story, so I have, so I know what actually happens and how the series ends, just to give me the bookend. But I'm not going to run out and do it immediately. There's going to be, I'll take some time, and as I'm thinking, and maybe next time when I, do some ordering, because a lot of times I'll pick up a book when we know we're going to talk about it. I'll pick it up digitally, so I have it. It's easier for us while we're recording for me to have the electronic version up as opposed to flip through the page, the paper version. So maybe next time I'm doing that, I'll look at the Dial H and say, oh, okay, let me pick up these issues. And let me finish out the story just so I know what happens.
Does a book being canceled and no longer being published, does that influence your interest in buying and reading it? If you know something's no longer around, but you read an issue or something like that that gets you interested, will that make you want to seek that out? Or do you say to yourself, because I know you're, and there's no wrong answer for this, I'm not setting you up for anything, I'm genuinely asking. I know you're big on continuity. A lot of times your priority comes from the fact that, okay, I want to read this book that's currently in continuity now and influencing where the story direction of my universe is going. And I get that that's something that you really enjoy. That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I think everybody has their own different preferences there. Does then, when you're looking at a series like this is not currently influencing my continuity, it was a part of it, but now that book's ended, so I'm moving forward? Or when you read a single issue like this, does that make you go, it'd be worth kind of seeing what all happened in this book? How does that work for you?
It depends on, a lot of times, with creative teams and or the story that I read about it. I could very easily get, if a series is canceled and ended, I can very easily maybe pick up another version of it. I probably wouldn't go back and get floppies now. I probably would do the digital side or get a trade of it, and read it that way. But, I think, the Jim of old and the Jim now are two completely different entities. And I do look more towards the story and the read and the enjoyment, and not just the collection and not just the collectability, and just, if I get a sample of something, I see it's really good, I'll say, you know what, I really enjoyed that issue. Let me see what else we got on this. Even if it's a dead series, even if it's completely canceled series, I'll go back and I'll pick up and read something. But it's not going to be a high priority to me because I am so continuity focused. I am so focused on what we currently have out there. It's like a lot of the Vertigo titles that I dropped all the Vertigo titles because, again, financial and because of just time, set aside to read it. Nothing to do with quality. I thought there were some great books, and I'm looking at other ways to pick up those titles now so I can get the story, so I can get the enjoyment out of it, and I can read the stuff that's happening, that happened. And, it'll happen in time. And a lot of times when I'm traveling, I'll take a couple trades with me, for either sitting in the airport or, a lot of times, like if I go to Vegas, when I get home from, gambling, I need just a period of unwinding. And I hate turning on the TV for some reason when I'm unwinding. The comic seems to just help me relax and unwind. And so I'll take a bunch of trades with me, and I'll go through a couple trades while I'm on vacation. And it's usually a night read, or a travel read or something like that.
That's great. Yeah, I stuff like that always interests me, as far as I think one of the nice things about comics nowadays is there's no right or wrong way to handle your collection. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to make decisions about books. I really encourage people to embrace the amount of product that's out there now and the ability to make choices based on different delivery medium. Because to me, I think it's great that you can go from reading single monthly issues to wonderful variety of hardcovers and softcover books to the digital media. And comic companies are really experimenting with all those delivery methods. I read an interesting article lately about how, with comic characters becoming more mainstream, why are comics not getting the kind of respect that they deserve? I think it's really up to us as comic fans to be ambassadors of what is great about comics. We do this show, and we'll pick out books to talk about that were highly. There's a reason we started off with Forever Evil issue number 2. We were both super excited to read it. And that always makes for a great show topic, because for us, when I say great show topic, on the end of the people recording the podcast, us, I feel if we're enjoying what we're reading and we're high energy and high interest in that book genuinely, people want to tune into it, because even if they disagree with us, there's something that's compelling about the fact that you're interested in talking about that topic. There's been podcasts out there about comics where people have disliked a comic, and I've greatly enjoyed it because there was a passion and an interest behind it. They weren't just phoning the episode in. But I do think, taking it back to the positive side, I think it's important for all of us as fans to make sure more often than not, and more often than we're bashing comics, that we are getting the word out about what's great about comics to the general public, not just in comic forums. If there's a place to start a topic talking about interesting comic reads where you can put buzzwords in there that people are interested in, like Avengers, or, if whatever movie's out at the moment, Batman versus Superman, if you can start a thread about that and talk about, Batman versus Superman, what's great about the comics today, and just have that discussion going on, but use that film hook as a way to draw people in. I think we have an opportunity as fans to be ambassadors to this artistic medium. I don't want to use the word hobby, because the hobby part of it is the collecting that we all do, and that is a portion of it. But it's an artistic medium that we all enjoy. And I think it's really sad that we don't get the kind of readership for comics that I feel the quality deserves. And I think I would love that to be the charge out of this episode. If you walk out of here today and do something good, go to a forum or a page somewhere where there's normally not a comic thread, and start one up with some interesting topic about something you're geeking out about that you think people just in general love mainstream-wise. Who cares if it's like a Batman comic or a Superman comic? I know a lot of times it's taboo to talk about the big characters, but my opinion is get the hook out there for people that aren't reading. If it's a video game forum, get the word out that's Batman. If you're talking about Batman Arkham Origins, which that game people are talking about all over the place, start up a thread by why those people should be reading the comics and, get off their butt and do that. Because the game really, that universe, brings people to comics. And I want this thing to be around 20 years from now, 30 years from now with, more comic product than we see today.
Amen. Amen. Oh, my brother, testify. It's one of the things that we sometimes, and I say we, I mean, as a general statement of comic book fans, we are our own worst enemy sometimes. And there have been so many times that at work when I'm talking to people and just, they know I'm a fan. And so they'll, anytime there's some type of comic media out there, people will come and talk to me and we'll just have a conversation. But usually within the guys are like within the time of that conversation, they'll say, "Yeah, I heard a lot of people were just trashing it." I'm like, it's and it's that critical mindset where we gotta say they feel we gotta say something negative, and we don't want to come across as a quote unquote fanboy, just saying how wonderful it is. Well, guess what? You gotta talk about the positive stuff. If you don't like something, fine, you can say, "Hey, wasn't my cup of tea, but hey, this is wonderful. Here's this thing that's absolutely wonderful. This is a great read for you. This is a cool thing." And we got to always remember that you got to have the balance. If you didn't like something and you're on a forum and they're talking about it and you didn't like it, I'm not telling you to lie. Say, hey, you didn't like it, but you know what? Bring up something that you enjoyed, especially if we're talking to non-comic book people, where it's, like the Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. When that came out, the TV show, people asked me what I thought about it, and I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. And there was a couple stuff that my one buddy at work, he didn't like. It's been 2 weeks. On the first episode, the Shield flying the flight car with how the wheels turn down and the car takes off and flies, and I was like, dude, that's a classic just moment from Shield, man. I'm not a Marvel, I'm not currently reading Marvel. So I'm not a quote-unquote Marvel guy right now, but even I geeked out over seeing the flight car.
Wait, hold on. But point of clarification. You've had plenty of points in your life where you have been.
Yeah, I am. That's why I want to. I don't want to say I'm not a Marvel guy because I technically am.
You are.
I do enjoy reading Marvel Universe. I'm just not currently reading it because, I'm reading almost the entire DC universe. I can't afford that, so I'm not going to try to pull in another universe. But I am a Marvel guy, and I geeked out over seeing that. And as I'm talking to him, telling him about it, he was like, "Oh, okay." He understood it because he didn't really know just the history behind it. He didn't know, because I was like, dude, I saw that coming a mile away just because. I was like, come on, where's the car? Come on, it's going to fly. Yeah, and I was cheering while I was watching it. And he's like, oh, okay. And there's other moments of the issue that he and I had a really cool conversation where we're talking about different stuff, and we're talking about different stuff from the different movies, and just it's that moments of where I see one thing, he sees it a different way, and it was a really cool conversation.
Yeah, and I like that kind of material. I haven't actually seen the first episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet, and you didn't ruin anything for me. I was actually glad to hear you talk about it the way that you did, because and this didn't really influence me where I'm sitting here saying I don't want to watch that. I've been getting caught up on Homeland. I got into that show on Showtime, and I was watching season 1 at the end of summer, and work got me bogged down, and I started now heavily getting caught up on season 2, and I really wanted to jump into the first episode of season 3. Now I want to go back and watch S.H.I.E.L.D. And I'm like sitting here, I'm like, well, is there really a big deal if because I know I'll enjoy it more if I have a couple episodes in the bank before I start watching it. So that's what I'm waiting for. But the disheartening part has been, I'm a comic book geek. I'm with you. I love Marvel stuff. I've grown up. There's many times where I was reading mostly Marvel titles, the same way that right now I'm reading mostly DC. And it's always fun to explore both universes. And I want that show to be good, and I want it to succeed. And I think as comic fans, we should want even if it's not our cup of tea, we should want any comic show that's decent to be, to succeed, because that will lead to more opportunities for comic properties. So I would say, please curb down on the bashing. It's okay to say, hey, I don't like this. Cool. Move along. and let people who are enjoying it rant and rave about it to, maybe draw on some new people to that, and move on to promoting that thing that you know and love genuinely in your heart, because you want to bring people to that. I think right now as fans, we do have a responsibility to try and bring in, not a responsibility, it's kind of a responsibility to ourselves to try and bring new people to the comics world who aren't normally reading them. Because if these properties are doing gangbusters on the big screen, they should be doing gangbusters in the world of comics, and they're just not right now.
Yeah. Well, hey, with great power comes great responsibility.
That's right. But anyway, I just really, it's funny. It was a perfect time to talk about this because I just thought the last month was fantastic. I mean, this whole villains thing was jumping out of that Trinity War has been just really neat. I can't wait for the next issue. And I can't wait for some of these tie-ins to come out now. I want to read those.
And I intentionally did not answer your one question about my favorite issue. Just as I know I'll get an email or a comment from like, hey, you never answered the question. What's your favorite issue? I don't have a favorite. I can't pull one over the other. I've tried, and I knew going into this I'd have to think about it. And just when I finalize on something, I'm like, oh, but what about this? Oh, there's no number one, and I couldn't even give you a top five. I tell you, these were, as you said, the worst of the bunch was a middle of the stack that I was like, man, this is cool. This is neat. I enjoy the read. It's not a one and done. Oh, I'll never touch it again. I didn't have any of those. So for everything to be on such a high level that it's like, wow, it's this. No, it's this. It's. I really couldn't put my finger on one favorite issue of this because these were all just really a spot on, just what I was hoping for.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I mean, that kind of stuff. When you've got an event like this, and you can go to yourself as I kind of view this as a whole, as an event. And that's been my experience with reading it. Like, I've really enjoyed being able to, when my books came out, just kind of to put them all in a stack and just kind of go through and just gradually read and bask in the experience, exploring these villains. And it didn't really matter to me. Obviously, I picked and chose which ones cover drew me to, or a particular creative team drew me to. I started reading them. But I really liked being able to jump from one book to another. I don't know that I picked the ones that I was the most interested in first as much as I really just wanted to go through and read all of them, and I was enjoying that aspect of it, if that makes sense, which I don't normally read that way. Normally I grab the ones that are my highest interest first, and then I kind of gradually make my way through. I didn't do that with this, and I just found the experience to be greatly rewarding because of it, and I'm really glad we got a chance to enjoy this event. Can't wait to see where it goes next.
Amen.
Can Batman escape? One hint, the worst is yet to come.
Hey, Sean and Jim, this is Jack Dower again, and I want to agree with you on how much I'm loving this Villains Month event, particularly that Riddler issue that they just did that you guys were talking about. A lot of people don't understand the difference between the Riddler and the Joker, but Scott Snyder is definitely not one of them. Sean probably remembers when John Byrne did a story of the 3D graphic novel, and the catalyst for it was the Parasol Pilfer, and Two-Face was in it, and Joker was in it, and of course Riddler was in it, and Joker's attempts to kill a very Frank Gorshin-looking Riddler, claiming that Riddler was just a second-rate hit. I loved that graphic novel in so many ways, except for that one scene. I thought he didn't really understand the Riddler, but Scott Snyder totally does. So anyway, the one villain that's not getting a Villains Month issue, and I understand, as much as I'm loving this event, he only has so many slots, but I would love to see Mr. Mxyzptlk get one of these issues, because in the current Grant Morrison Action Comics storyline, Mixie was much more obsessed with Superman than he normally is. And I would like to see him show up in a world without a Superman and how he would deal with that. I mean, the only thing he's got there is Ultraman, and, it's not the same. So, is there any villains that you guys wish had gotten a slot that didn't. And the other question I had was about events. In the New 52, I personally have never had event fatigue. The only two DC events that I'm really not a big fan of was Millennium, and I loved Countdown. I agreed with you guys when you were going through Countdown. I thought it was a lot of fun in it, but Final Crisis kind of confused me. But anyway, what events would you like to see them keep in the new New 52 continuity, and what events would you maybe like to see them forget ever happened? All right. Thanks very much. Talk to you later.
So, Jim, Jack was asking two different things, and the first thing he was asking, with Villains Month, was there any villain that was not portrayed, and he mentioned Mixus Pitlick, that was not in Villains Month that you're like, geez, I wish they had done them? Because they covered a lot of villains. Was there anybody that, like you were saying, geez, I wish this character had an issue, or this is somebody that I would have liked to have seen?
Well, I think we mentioned in the past with Catman, and Ragdoll were two that I kind of would have liked to have seen. But again, there would only be one person I would want writing those characters, just because I think Gail's the only one who should ever write those characters, because I love her portrayal of them. So that's definitely, off the top of my head, two people I would like to see. I don't really, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any that I'm like, I wish they would have done this person. I wish they would have done that, because I think they had a pretty good, solid representation of them. The only thing I could think of is, having read Joker's Daughter and really enjoying Joker's Daughter, I think this could have been a time for them to introduce a brand new villain, someone that nobody knows about, or and actually giving us a little bit more about them, and just because she's a fresh introduction. Let's introduce a brand new villain nobody knows about, and just kind of go that way with it. I think that would have been a neat trick for them to do in this month. Just introduce a character that you're going to use later on.
Joker's son.
Yeah, I wouldn't go Joker's son. I'd go Riddler's son.
Then Joker's nephew and Joker's niece.
His cat.
Joker's gardener.
I'm going to throw out a character that is not, I don't know if you call him a villain, but
okay.
Any of the Red Lanterns.
Oh, yeah.
Because really they're not villains, but they are kind of. And same thing like with any of the Yellow Lanterns they could have done. They could have given us some cool, because we got a great Sinestro story that was really neat, but they could have given us a Red Lantern or maybe a Yellow Lantern that we didn't really know a lot about. Just, kind of flesh out the story.
But what I would love to see in that would be that character showing us a perspective of characters that we've previously known and enjoyed.
Yeah.
From that character's viewpoint. Because I always find it more interesting to see characters that we know and love from the perspective of a different character, because they're going to notice nuances about the character that we never do. I think that stuff is cool. Yeah, I don't have anybody burning or pressing either, other than I agree with your ideas. I know we discussed that previously, and I kind of stand behind my comments there. But I've really been happy with the choices that they made. The other question that he asked that I thought was particularly interesting, events. He talked about some of the DC events, and he mentioned that he liked things like Countdown in the past, and just different DC events that happened, which is kind of a rarity, right? We're sometimes usually the few people that'll admit that we liked Countdown. But he asked if there were events that we wanted in continuity, like if there was an event that started for you, like, hey, I want this one to still exist. And are there ones that you're hoping are erased from continuity, like that they don't exist now? So is there anything that you're saying to yourself you want to pick one and say, I really hope this one is still in existence, and is there one that you hope is no longer with us?
Oh, boy, that's a toughie. Because there are a lot of the classic Batman stories I want to be in continuity. And they've already kind of let us know this one is, this one isn't, and they've kind of broken it down and done pretty good with letting us know. The one thing I do want to know about is we already know that the contest really can't be in continuity, just because of the story that is being told through Wonder Woman and how she's relatively new into her dealings with humanity. So that's a story that I wish somehow it could be in continuity, and and also everything that Gail told with the with the circle, and how with that, just that past and that origins of the within the Amazon culture, and just everything that there's going to be obvious modifications to it to deal with a different Wonder Woman, a different continuity, but those were some really powerful inter-Amazonian moments that I wish would still be around, that I think is it'd be kind of a neat little part, a part of the history, and just flesh out the character. And of course, I mentioned them earlier. I'll mention them again. Secret Six, man. I hope they're not events. It's a story. It's a title, but just I wish that a team was still around, or if they explain away, they're still there. Here's why you haven't seen them, and this. I think that would be, because that was just a wonderful title and a wonderful. They told some great stories. With the hell, traveling to hell, and just the various nature of that team and the story that was told. That, like, dang it, I don't want them to be gone.
It's usually the events that I still want in place are like the Green Lantern events and the Batman events and stuff like that. I guess the one story that I don't want in place, and I don't know, is it in continuity or not? I guess they kind of reference it, Death of Superman. I don't want that in continuity, because to me, part of the pivotal part of that story was what happened with him and Lois, and it meant more because of the relationship between them. And to not have that relationship there on that level, to me, diminishes that story. And I'm not saying that I don't like. I think, didn't Death of Superman happen?
Yeah, it was funny because I was just about to jump down your throat and just about to go on the attack mode, and then you made that one comment about the Lois, and that got me thinking. The other part I loved about that story was Ma and Pa Kent dealing with Lois. I thought that was just such a wonderful thing, where when Lois calls them and she's in tears, and this one-time powerful, strong-willed woman is just destroyed, and Martha looks at Jonathan, we gotta go. Let's go. Pack up your stuff. She needs us. And I thought that was a great moment that we're not going to have in this universe. So
doesn't that take away from that story? I think I'm with your passion for the story. I'm
agreeing with you now. I was about to attack you, and I'm like, you know what? Sean's right. I wish they've already said that Death of Superman happened. But part of me wishes they didn't have that because of that.
But why does it need to, I guess, is my question. What is it about that story? What is it adding to the universe that he died at some point, and the people that loved him aren't there?
Yeah.
I mean, Lois is in the universe, sure, and yes, she mourned him, but it wasn't the same. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that in continuity. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And also, another one, like, I don't want to find out Crisis on Infinite Earths is in continuity. I love Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's big, it's epic, it's huge. But what was, great about it was the DC universe was big, and I'm assuming that none of that exists. And I'm very cool with none of that existing. I would be curious to see on the Batman end, because I think we're pretty clear that most of the Jeff Johns Green Lantern events on some level happened, and I'm fine with that. I think that all works in the compressed timeline pretty well. The Batman events, I'm curious to see which ones did, like Cataclysm and stuff like that. Did all that stuff happen? Is it necessary for it to happen? I don't know. No Man's Land, did that kind of stuff happen? Because to me, part of the fun of No Man's Land was the introduction of the new Batgirl, the relationship with Jim Gordon and Sarah Essen.
Yeah.
And that stuff I'm pretty convinced doesn't fit in to the compressed timeline. So I don't know. If that stuff...
There's a bunch of those Bat stories that probably wouldn't fit into the universe that they've got right now because of just character changes and tweaks and developments and where they're at. And I thought they kind of had to throw out Batman Year One with the stories being told in Year Zero. I thought they said they had to get rid of that, and so I thought that's no longer in continuity.
Nightfall. was particularly good. And, I think that storyline really holds up well. The Cult, for very selfish reasons, I would like the Cult to still be in continuity. I can't figure out a good reason why it would not be, with Jason Todd being around and stuff like that. And I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that I would like to see, still be in existence. Otherwise, there's not, a whole lot of stories that I'm burning that they have to be in existence, because sometimes, you try to pigeonhole too much of that stuff into the continuity. It just doesn't work. So, let it go. Those stories happened before Flashpoint, and I'm content with that. I think that's really cool. I agreed with you on the contest just because it's a cool story.
Yeah, but I don't see it fitting, though. But right. I thought it's a great story, but it just doesn't fit.
I don't want them to retell those stories either. I don't want to see like the Contest 2015 or something like that, where they redo that story. Because to me, you're just going to deliver a watered-down version of a classic.
Yeah.
Tell new stories, tell original stories. I like the way they're going with that concept. Keep things alive. Like the Killing Joke should be in existence. I think it's cool how it affects Barbara right now. But I don't think you need every Batman event to do that. So, I don't know. Good stuff. It's a good question. So thanks for calling.
You filthy criminals.
I want to shout out RagingBullets.com, where you will find regular show updates on where the podcast is heading. We're linked to Twitter. We have an amazing Facebook group. We have a regular Facebook page for the show, which is different than the group. The group is where the community gathers to talk comics and pop culture in general. Amazing group of people that link if they have blogs or podcasts or anything that they're doing relating to the world of comics or pop culture. They post them there. So please check it out, support our friends, and enjoy the conversation that's going on there. It's really grown so far beyond the show, and I just love the amazing people that are there. It's one of my favorite destinations, so I want to thank everybody who participates in that. We have pages on Google Plus and things like that as well, so you can kind of find out what's going on with the show. I post new episodes on all of those different social media avenues besides using our website, so it's easy to find out what's going on with Raging Bullets. And our show voicemail line, which is 1-440-388 4434 or Dr. Norge on Skype. Anytime you got thoughts on comics or pop culture that you want to throw on the show, please call in. We'd love to have them as part of the podcast. Jim, our sponsors for this episode are DCBService.com and InStockTrades.com. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, we're getting into that time where DCB Service is going to be listing the October 2013 deals. And it's always great to see what kind of bundles and specials and 50% off deals that they're offering across comics. And we love DCBService.com, which is an amazing pre-order source. InStockTrades.com. I mentioned at the beginning of the show amazing deals like the Earth 2 hardcover. This is a hardcover comic that's 176 pages, $24.99 regularly, 50% off, only $12.49. It's collecting issues 7 to 12 and a story from DC Universe Presents number 0 and Earth 2 number 0. So this is a big book for only $12.49. And it's got a wonderful cover by Nicola Scott featuring Hawkgirl, Flash, and the new Dr. Fate. Super cool stuff.
Ooh, sounds nice.
Yeah. So that's InStockTrades.com. Jim, our next episode, we don't know what we're doing yet, which is kind of cool. We're going to be talking over the next week or so what we're going to talk about with current comics that are being released into the New 52. Be on the lookout on the website. We'll tell you what we're going to be chatting about. And please feel free to call in with voicemails. We'd love to get your thoughts and comments on the show as well. We will see everyone next week.
Bye.
Flying through space and time, 1,000 different lifetimes. Fated for love and flaws and incredibly clear sightlines. Swinging your mace around, such a practical outlook. Helping the JSA and occasionally supporting your own book. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't see. Hawkman, your plan and what you do to me. Athenian guard or Egyptian, working so hard to thwart you and Hawkgirl's mission. The odds are not on your side, and danger seems to stack up. Things would be so much easier if you would just call for backup. Hawkman, Hawkman, eagle eyes can't